Chapter 2834. His Xiao-Qi. The little junior brother he had loved and protected for so many years. Someone had hurt and harmed him like this. Xiao-Qi. Yun Ruhan shook off the old woman and leaped towards the central platform. He could not feel the corrosive heat of the sky-eroding water at all. The profound iron chains were indestructible. Normal spirit weapons could not break them, let alone bare hands. But Yun Ruhan seemed to have forgotten everything. He just desperately pulled at the profound iron chains, trying to free Luoyu from the chains. The unconscious youth slowly opened his eyes due to the violent movements. When he saw the familiar face, he blinked his long eyelashes and murmured in a low, hoarse voice, eldest senior brother. I see eldest senior brother, am I dreaming? Yun Ruhan choked. Xiao-Qi, don't be afraid. Eldest senior brother will take you away. We'll go find little junior sister. Little junior sister will definitely be able to cure you. Luoyu smiled softly. Yes, I'm not afraid. I know eldest senior brother, sixth senior sister, all of you will definitely find me. I'm not afraid at all, and I don't feel any pain, so eldest senior brother, can you not cry? Yun Ruhan finally realized that his face was covered in tears at some point. The hand that was untying the profound iron chains was wet and cold. He could not even hold the chains. Yun Ruhan wiped away the tears on his face before turning to Yun Zhaoxing. He said sternly, put Xiao-Qi down. Yun Zhaoxing was already frowning, his face full of displeasure. Now that he heard Yun Ruhan's unceremonious shout, he could not take it anymore. Ji Feng, do you know what you're saying? Yun Heng, who had been standing respectfully behind Yun Zhaoxing with his head bowed, suddenly looked up. He looked at Yun Ruhan accusingly. Ji Feng, how can you speak to your uncle like this? Lan Luoyu is just an outsider. The Yun family is your family. Especially Mother Lin, how much has she suffered all these years to find you? She was just injured by your so-called junior brother a few days ago. Instead of caring for her, you yell at us for an outsider. Do you think this is proper? Yun Heng was the son of Yun Zhaoxing's elder brother. Because his parents died when he was young, he had always been raised by Yun Zhaoxing and his wife. After Yun Jifeng disappeared, he naturally became the successor of the Yun family. Hearing him scold Yun Ruhan with reason, Yun Zhaoxing nodded in satisfaction. On the other hand, the more he looked at Yun Jifeng, his own son, the angrier he got. Even Xian Menglan revealed a disappointed expression. Ji Feng, hurry up and apologize to your father. Yun Ruhan completely ignored them. He glanced at Yun Heng and narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. His attitude made Yun Zhaoxing even more annoyed. But before he could flare up, he heard Xian Yuan chuckle softly and say, all right. It wasn't easy for Ji Feng to come back. Why must you be so harsh on the child? Not to mention, he has lost his memory. I'm sure he didn't do it on purpose. Xian Yuan said as he walked towards Yun Ruhan. His gaze swept across Luoyu, who was still hanging by the black iron, and a look of greed and excitement flashed across his eyes. Ji Feng, you must know that even if you lost your memory, the fact that blood is thicker than water will not change. Compared to the Xiaoyao sect, we are your real family. I heard that Lan Luoyu summoned 2 soul orbs under Yun Heng's control. One is the divine beast by Zhe, the other is the divine beast by Feng. Chapter 2835. Hearing Xian Yuan's words. Even Yun Zhaoxing, Xian Menglan, and Yun Heng's eyes lit up. Xian Yuan revealed a kind smile. If I remember correctly, the divine beast by Zhe is a soul pearl that only the Lan royal family can inherit, right? As for the divine beast by Feng, I've never even heard of it. Ji Feng, the background of this junior brother of yours is somewhat fishy. However, since he's your junior brother, to us, the Cleansing Joy Pavilion, and the Yun family, he's naturally one of us. Even if there's a problem with his identity, or if he's taken the Lan royal family's soul pearl, we're still willing to protect him. Of course, the premise is that he must first activate the soul pearl for us to see. Then we can decide how to deal with it. Yun Zhaoxing nodded heavily. That's right, Ji Feng, quickly let him summon the divine beast by Feng. Yun Ruhan only felt a buzz in his head, and his heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. It was for the soul pearl. These people wanted to force Xiao-Qi to summon the soul pearl so that they could take it for themselves. That's why they tortured him like this. Yun Ruhan's cold eyes swept across everyone present. He had always been the most gentle and steady senior brother in the Xiaoyao sect. He was the calmest and most steady one. But at this moment, the monstrous anger in his heart made him want to kill everyone in front of him. Senior brother, don't be angry, I really, don't hurt, really, it just looks ugly, actually, it's just a superficial wound. When 6th senior sister comes, I'll immediately be full of vigor. A hoarse voice sounded in his ears. He was clearly so weak, but he forced himself to speak in a joking tone. Yun Ruhan only felt his heart ache, and tears almost gushed out of his eyes. He calmed himself down and looked coldly at the Yun family. You make it sound so nice, but don't you just want to take Xiao Qi's soul pearl? Even Xian Yuan's face became a bit ugly when his thoughts were exposed. Xian Minglan's face darkened. Ji Feng, how can you talk to your grandfather like that? Have you forgotten how much your grandfather loved you? Isn't he just a junior brother of a small sect? What right does he have to have the divine beast soul pearl? How much power could he unleash from the soul pearl? The Yun family and the cleansing paradise pavilion are different. As long as we can control the soul orb and summon the divine beast, the Yun family's status in the northern continent will completely surpass the Ning family. Yun Zhaoxing said coldly, if you really feel that it's unfair in your heart, I'll take out the soul pearl and fuse it into your body, and you can control it. In any case, the Yun family will be handed over to you sooner or later. Hearing this, Yunheng suddenly clenched his fists tightly. Viciousness and dissatisfaction flashed through his eyes. Yun Ruhan sneered, what if I refuse? He took a deep breath and slowly circulated the spiritual energy in his body. With a move of his divine sense, a sword light flew over from afar and landed in his hand. This sword was slender and long, and its entire body was snow-white. As soon as he injected his spiritual energy into it, it emitted a chilly aura. It was the supreme-grade divine artifact that Mu Yen had obtained from the Woodfern secret realm, the Ice Soul Sword. The Ice Soul Sword had already recognized Yun Ruhan as its master. As long as the distance wasn't too far, he could summon it at any time. When he had just woken up, his body was weak and the circulation of his spiritual energy was blocked. His divine sense couldn't connect with the Ice Soul Sword. Thus, he had been thinking of ways to regulate his breathing. Now, he had finally gathered enough spiritual energy. The Ice Soul Sword in Yun Ruhan's hand slashed in the air. Chapter 2836. With a clang, the black iron chain that was as thick as a wrist broke in an instant. Yun Ruhan picked up the tottering Luoyu and carried him on her back. The Ice Soul Sword pointed at the crowd in front of him and said loudly, move aside. Evil creature. Do you know what you're doing? Yun Zhaoxing was furious. I've already said that I'll give you the soul beads I took out, isn't that enough? What else do you want? I don't want anything. Yun Ruhan said word by word. I just won't allow anyone to hurt Xiao Qi. As soon as he finished speaking, he swung the Ice Soul Sword in the air. Crack crack crack. In a split second, a bone-chilling frost covered the entire water dungeon. Even the sky-eroding water on the ground had turned into a thick layer of ice. The guards of the Yun family who did not have a high level of cultivation immediately let out blood-curdling screams as their feet were directly frozen to the ground. Yun Ruhan brandished her sword a second time. A fierce wind mixed with ice and frost howled, and a blizzard descended. This time, even Yun Zhaoxing and the others were caught off guard, and were blown back several steps by the blizzard. The originally impenetrable water prison of the Yun family only needed 2 strikes to open up a passage. This was the supreme-grade divine artifact, the Ice Soul Sword. This was Yun Ruhan of the Carefree sect. It was a long time before Yun Zhaoxing regained his composure. He couldn't help but be shocked and angry. Seal off the Yun family, activate it, we cannot let those 2 escape. After Yun Ruhan brought Luoyu out of the water dungeon, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he quickly returned to the room he had woken up in and started searching. Sure enough, he soon found his clothes and storage ring. Inside the storage ring were the pills, talismans, and formation plates that Mu Yen had prepared for every member of the Xiaoyao sect. Yun Ruhan only had time to stuff a yang rejuvenation pill into Luoyu's mouth. The wooden door of the room shattered with a loud bang. Yun Zhaoxing, Xian Menglan, and the others stood outside the house with gloomy expressions. Only the old woman who had brought Yun Ruhan back to the Yun manor was still waving her hands anxiously. Master, Madam, this is young Master Ji Feng. You guys mustn't make a move. There must be some misunderstanding here. Young Master Ji Feng, you quickly explain clearly. Yun Zhaoxing fiercely swung his hand and snapped, vile spawn, when are you going to stop messing around? Hurry up and hand him over. Do you really want to force me to fight you? Xian Menglan held back the enraged Yun Zhaoxing and said earnestly, Ji Feng, even if you don't remember anything, you're still our son, and blood is thicker than water. Could it be that we would harm you? Hand him over to us first. We can discuss how to deal with your junior brother later. Yun Ruhan took a deep breath and said coldly, I'm not your son, Yun Jifeng, and I will never hand Xiao Qi over to anyone. All right. Yun Zhaoxing's chest violently heaved up and down, and his face flushed red. Since you refuse to come to your senses, then I will pretend that my son died more than a decade ago. Today, you have to teach this Lan Luoyu, even if you don't want to. As he spoke, Yun Zhaoxing suddenly pulled out a pair of maces and swung them out. This pair of beasts was called the Divine Beasts. It was the only quasi-divine weapon that the Yun family possessed. Only the Yun family patriarch was allowed to use it. The 8-edged swords looked like 2 short rods. But once spiritual energy was injected into them, they turned into 2 long snakes that looked like swords and whips, whizzing towards Yun Ruhan. Yun Ruhan stuffed a yang rejuvenation pill into her mouth. She didn't have time to refine it, so she blocked with her sword. Pfft. Chapter 2837. The spiritual power violently collides, and Yun Ruhan's whole body flies dozens of meters away, directly smashing through the rear window and falling into the courtyard. In midair, he's already spitting out a large mouthful of blood. But just as he's about to hit the ground, he instinctively turns around, letting himself fall face first onto the ground. Eldest brother. Luoyu screams, struggling to climb down from his back. Yun Ruhan takes out a binding immortal rope from his storage ring and firmly ties Luoyu to his back. Eldest brother, quickly put me down. Luoyu urgently says, 6th sister's yang restoration pill has already taken effect, I can fight with you. Yun Ruhan glances at his already bloody and bony legs. Without another word, he rides his sword and flies towards the distant mountain peak. He hasn't even recovered half of his strength. He's absolutely no match for Yun Zhaoxing and Xian Yuan. Evil creature, do you think you can escape? Yun Zhaoxing roars, glaring fiercely at the old woman, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and activate the Great 10,000 Torrents formation. The old woman's face is full of tears, shaking her head incessantly. Master, that's young Master Ji Feng, your own son. You can't hurt him. Shut up. Useless trash. Yun Zhaoxing kicks out, sending the old woman flying. So what if he's my own son? As long as he betrays the Yun family and obstructs the expansion of my Yun family, even if he's my own son, I, Yun Zhaoxing, will still kill him. What's more, even without him, Yun Heng can still become a qualified master. Yun Heng's eyes flash with ecstasy, and he quickly says, Uncle, Aunt, I won't let you down. But right now, we still have to find cousin Ji Feng. I think he's so rebellious now because he lost his memory. As long as he recovers his memory, I believe he'll know where he went wrong today. As he speaks, he lowers his eyes, concealing the murderous intent in his eyes. Everyone in this group of people is Yun Jifeng's nominal relative. But the only one who truly cares about Yun Jifeng's safety is an old woman who has no blood relationship with him. Xian Yuan lightly snorts. Does my Mu Lu Pavilion's Great 10,000 Torrents formation need a servant to activate it? Jun Mayan's godly musician's secret technique is certainly tempting. Bei's soul pearl wasn't any weaker. Xian Yuan looked at the 2 figures flying into the sky with greed in his eyes. At the same time, he raised his hand, and the set of bells flew out, producing a tinkling sound in the air. Soon, the earth shook violently, and countless strands of energy extended from the void. It wrapped around Yun Ruhan and Luoyu like a spider web. Ji Feng, it's not too late for you to turn back now. Xian Yuan said in a clear voice, otherwise, if you're injured by the great array of 10,000 tortures, I can't guarantee whether your divine soul will be damaged or your cultivation will fall. Yun Ruhan glanced in Xian Yuan's direction. Under his proud and arrogant gaze, he threw an array disc into the sky. The formation plate buzzed in the air, then emitted a blinding white light. When the white light dissipated, there was nothing above, not even a shadow of a person. The attacks triggered by the Great 10,000 Torrents formation also retreated powerlessly because they could not find their target. What happened? Where are they? What was that? Xian Yuan's face was livid. He gritted his teeth and said, teleportation array. That's a small random teleportation formation disk. Chapter 2838. How could it be? How could they have a random transmission array disk? That's a rare array disk that can't even be found in the Tianguang Ruins market. Yes, in a moment of life and death. Yun Ruhan activated the random transmission array disk that Mu Yen gave him. This kind of array disk was not of a high level and required very little energy, but there were very few people in the world who could draw it. But Mu Yen had one under her command, Bai Yang. After joining the Nether Flame Army, Bai Yang had powerful resources to back him up, and his attainments in arrays improved by leaps and bounds. The random transmission array disk that he drew was also incomparable to the previous one. Bai Yang had asked Ru Yen to send a lot of random transmission array disks to Mu Yen. Mu Yen thought it was interesting, so she gave 2 to everyone in the Xiaoyao sect. But because the Xiaoyao sect's purpose had never been to escape, so the 7 of them quickly forgot about the array disk. Who knew that today, it would become a life-saving straw for Yun Ruhan and Luoyu. Search! Even if we have to turn over this mountain, we must find this evil creature for me. The distance that the random transmission array disk can teleport is limited, they definitely can't escape from this green feather mountain. Wang Yin Bazaar. Young master, are you asking about the strange phenomenon in the snow demon forest? As far as I know, it was the Leng family's ancestor who ascended to the Xiuxian continent. In our Xiuxian continent, there hasn't been an ascended cultivator for many years. However, the Leng family's ancestor is at the top of the green sky list. If he can't ascend, then it's even more impossible for others. Ning Su walked out of the listening sound pavilion and looked up at the direction of the snow demon forest, frowning slightly. If he was not wrong, that aura broke through the barrier of space. But it didn't lead to the Xiuxian continent, but to the floating island. Is the zither player in the Clear Night Hall really one of the Xiaoyao 7, fatally beautiful killing god, Jun Muyen? It's absolutely true, this news came from the listening sound pavilion. I saw with my own eyes how she treated the meridian atrophy in the Clear Night Hall. I didn't expect there to be such a powerful musician in the outside world. She's powerful, but unfortunately, because she's too powerful, she offended Mu Lu Pavilion. Isn't she now being thrown into the unclean abyss? Ning Su's expression changed. With a wave of his hand, the person who had spoken was dragged in front of him. What did you say? Jun Mayan was sent to the unclean abyss. A powerful pressure spread out. The person who was caught trembles in fear. He promptly nods, yes, yes. The day before yesterday, everyone in the Clear Night Hall knew that because Jun Mayan offended Mu Lugu, she has already been transported to the unclean abyss. Ning Su swung his arm fiercely and flung him to the side. The anxiety in his heart made him rush toward the direction of the unclean abyss as fast as lightning. There were two ways to enter the unclean abyss. The other was the Horton tribe and the northern continent's unique teleportation portals. The other way was to enter from the mountain path at the end of the Snow Phantom Forest. Ning Su quickly arrived at the mountain path that Mu Yan and the others had used to come out of the unclean abyss. This place had long since been deserted, but the traces of the battle remained. Ning Su crouched down and touched the sword mark that Mu Yan had made with the 7 absolute sword. He breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that Mayan should have come out of the unclean abyss alive. Besides, she wasn't the only one who came out alive. There were other people from the Xiaoyao school. But very quickly, Ning Su frowned again. The unclean abyss had always been known as a place where one could only enter but not leave. How could Mu Yan come out safely? Chapter 2839. How could Mu Yan come out safely? Just like that person back then, while he was in a trance, suddenly, a dark light flashed in the distant sky. A powerful energy fluctuation faintly transmitted over, startling Ning Su. He instantly threw the thoughts in his mind to the back of his mind. That energy fluctuation contained the aura of death and the power of immortals. Not something that a cultivator from the Xiuxian continent could master? Who was that person? Without hesitation, Ning Su immediately soared up and flew in the direction of the surging energy. Green Feather Mountain. You guys go to the left side, we'll go to the right side. Understood? Understood. Yun Ruhan slowly opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the sound. At this time, the spiritual power that he could circulate in his dantian was still less than half. He had only absorbed 30% of the effects of the Yang reversion pill. But he got up without hesitation, carried Luoyu, who was still adjusting her breathing, and walked in the opposite direction of the sound. Luoyu's injuries were worse than he had expected. In order to make Luoyu activate the soul orb, the Yun family had used all kinds of torture. That torture was not only aimed at the body, but also at the soul. Mu Yan's Yang reversion pill could quickly heal external wounds, but the sky-eroding water was still in Luoyu's body, and the damage to the soul couldn't be reduced. One could imagine how much pain Luoyu had been in all this time without making a sound. Eldest senior brother. A low voice came from behind. Yun Ruhan didn't stop and said softly, Shao Qi, continue to adjust your breathing. Don't worry, we'll meet up with everyone soon. Luoyu lay on his back and said softly, Eldest senior brother, I think this scene is a little familiar. Did you carry me like this before? Yun Ruhan stopped and almost blurted out, You remember? Remember what? Luoyu was puzzled. Did eldest senior brother really carry me like this before? Yun Ruhan forced himself to maintain a calm expression and said lightly, Have you forgotten? Master and I have taken care of you since you were little. Is it that strange for eldest senior brother to carry you? Luoyu was silent and didn't speak. Was it not strange? But he felt that something was different. He had a vague memory in his mind. It seemed to be in the same dense forest. Even the moonlight could not shine through the layers of leaves. He couldn't even see his fingers in front of him, but there were countless footsteps and shouts behind him. Luoyu remembered whose back she was lying on, listening to the rapid breathing and the sound of shoes stepping on fallen leaves and mud. It was so fast that it looked as if it was a mad dash. The feeling in that blurry memory was very similar to what he was feeling now. But why couldn't he remember? Found it. It's here. Found them. Quick, send the signal. Luo Yu was lost in her thoughts when a few exclamations sounded. Yun Ruhan's expression changed. She no longer cared about concealing herself. Carrying Luo Yu on her back, she flew into the air. However, before he could fly far, he was stopped by a group of over 100 cultivators. The one in the lead was precisely Yun Jifeng's cousin, Yun Heng. Jifeng, why are you doing this? Yun Heng stepped on the treetops and landed lightly in front of Yun Ruhan and Luo Yu. He said with a half-smile, isn't he just a little junior brother from a lousy sect? So what if he's dead? What does that have to do with you? If you hand him over, uncle and aunt will naturally forgive you. Don't you think so? Chapter 2840. Yun Ruhan's gaze swept across the hundreds of cultivators who had surrounded him and Luo Yu, and he smiled coldly. Half of these cultivators were at the leaving aperture stage. More than a dozen of them were at the 8th level of leaving aperture. The rest were all at the peak of nascent soul. It could be said that the hundreds of cultivators who had appeared now were all of higher cultivation than Yun Ruhan and Luo Yu. At this time, these hundreds of people had surrounded Yun Ruhan and Luo Yu, leaving no space for him to escape. There was even a murderous intent in the air. Clearly, they did not want to leave him any way out. Even though they had such a formation, Yun Heng's expression was even more amiable. It was as if he was really advising his cousin to mend his ways. Jifeng, don't be stubborn. Come, give Lan Luo Yu to me. Brother will take you back to the Yun family now. Don't worry, if uncle blames you, I will definitely plead for you. Yun Ruhan laughed coldly and was about to speak. Suddenly, a shout of joy came from afar. Young Master Jifeng, great, you're fine. I finally found you. It was the old woman with the compass. She quickly came in front of Yun Jifeng and stood in front of him and Yun Heng. Young Master Heng, you must not harm young Master Jifeng. Just now, Master and Madam were just angry, but in the end, only young Master Jifeng is Master's biological son. If you hurt him, Master and Madam will definitely not let it go. The old woman's words made Yun Heng's expression twist. But the old woman did not care about him. She turned to Yun Ruhan and said agitatedly, Young Master Jifeng, everything can be discussed. If you really don't want to hurt little junior brother, we can also plead with Master and Madam. Mother, I've searched for you for so many years. Everyone else thought you were dead, only I believed that my young Master Jifeng would not die. Don't make me worry, okay? As she spoke, the old woman's eyes reddened and she reached out to Yun Ruhan. Yun Ruhan's eyes showed a trace of guilt. Just as she was about to speak, her expression suddenly changed, and she unsheathed the ice soul sword. With a clang, the icy blade knocked away the hidden weapon flying from the old woman's back. However, he was still a step too late. The ice soul sword deflected 3 of the hidden weapons, but the remaining 2 accurately pierced the old woman's back. Puff! The old woman spat out a mouthful of blood and fell straight down from the sky, hanging on the branch. She turned to look at Yun Heng in disbelief. Young Master Heng, why? Yun Heng laughed. Mother Lin, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. Wasn't the one who attacked you just now clearly Yun Jifeng? The old woman's body kept trembling. She wanted to take out her flute to attack, but she soon discovered that her fingers had turned purple. This was a symptom of being poisoned. Why do you want to kill me? Yun Ruhan sneered, of course it's because you want to stop him from silencing me. Yun Heng's eyes darkened, but the smile on his lips deepened. Yun Jifeng, you really didn't lose your memory. Since you didn't lose your memory, why did you pretend to lose it in front of uncle? Yun Ruhan replied indifferently, I've never feigned amnesia. Because I'm not Yun Jifeng at all. What? The old woman was shocked and looked at Yun Ruhan in shock. Young Master Jifeng, what nonsense are you saying? How can you not be young Master Jifeng? Chapter 2841. The birthmark on your body, your appearance, I would never mistake it for someone else. If you are not young Master Jifeng, then where is my young master? Yun Ruhan's cold gaze landed on Yun Heng as he said slowly, your young Master Jifeng was killed by this person in the Snow Demon Forest 12 years ago. Yun Heng frowned and looked for a long while with a serious expression. Then he laughed softly. Actually, when you were brought back by this old fellow, I found it strange. That year in the Snow Demon Forest, I saw you die with my own eyes, so I threw you into the abyss of uncleanliness. You should have been dead already, why are you still alive? So Yun Jifeng, oh no, Yun Ruhan of the 7 carefree disciples, who are you? Yun Ruhan ignored him and jumped down, landing next to the old woman. He took out a pill and fed it to her. Look after Xiao Qi for me. The old woman watched dazedly as Yun Ruhan placed Lan Luoyu next to her, almost forgetting to swallow the pill. When Yun Ruhan was about to stand up, she screamed, "If you are not young Master Ji Feng, then who are you? Where is young Master Ji Feng? What do you want to do?" Yun Ruhan brushed away the grass on his clothes and bent down slightly. He whispered in the old woman's ear, "Look after Xiao Qi for me. I am going to fulfill Yun Jifeng's last wish, to seek justice for him 12 years ago. Think of it as the price I must pay for borrowing his body." Finishing, he flew into the air and hovered in front of Yun Heng. The old woman's eyes widened as she sat where she was in disbelief, her body trembling uncontrollably. "Yun Ruhan, what did he mean just now? He said young Master Ji Feng is already dead. He said he was going to seek justice for young Master Ji Feng 12 years ago. He said this was the price he had to pay for borrowing this body." An inconceivable term floated into the old woman's mind, possession. Her young Master Ji Feng had been possessed by someone. How was this possible? Wasn't this kind of evil and demonic path forbidden by the entire cultivation continent? If the old woman thought of this, Yun Heng naturally thought of it as well. His previously smug face was now filled with shock. "You took over Yun Jifeng's body? 12 years ago, at the bottom of the cliff in the snow ghost forest, in the unclean abyss, the only person who could possess Yun Jifeng's body is you? Who are you?" The ice soul sword in Yun Ruhan's hand trembled. The second layer of the mountain sea domain was unleashed. A dense, icy cold chi spread out in the surroundings. The dense forest below was covered in a thick layer of frost. Only the place where Luoyu and the old woman stood seemed to be protected by something. There were no traces of frost. "Want to know who I am?" Yun Ruhan said slowly, "Then go to the Yellow Springs and ask the real Yunji Peak." As soon as he finished speaking, he swung his ice soul sword. Yun Heng never thought that the situation would turn out like this. He gathered all his trusted subordinates and wanted to secretly kill Yun Jifeng in high spirits. These subordinates had been carefully cultivated by him for many years. Every single one of them was sent to the altar to experience many baptisms. Therefore, even though they were not old, their cultivation was not lower than peak nascent soul. On the surface, these people were the Yun family subordinates, but in reality, they had long been subdued by Yun Heng and became his private soldiers. After all these years, everyone had tacitly agreed that Yun Heng would inherit the Yun family. Chapter 2842. Yun Ruhan was powerful, but he was only a nascent soul cultivator. Over 100 nascent soul realm cultivators were enough to kill him. However, reality was the complete opposite of what he expected. The moment the battle began, Yun Ruhan threw out a stack of talismans. Yes, a whole stack. Moreover, each talisman was a variant talisman that was hard to find in Tianguang ruins. These talismans were defensive, offensive, controlling, and illusionary. But no matter which one it was, their effect was not to defeat the enemy, but to block. Yun Heng and his subordinates did not expect Yun Ruhan to use a talisman-style move. For a moment, they were flustered and exhausted. No one could free themselves. After Yun Ruhan threw out the talismans, he did not care anymore. He fully opened his domain, and the ice soul sword in his hand danced with cold frost. He used this time to attack Yun Heng wildly. In an instant, Green Feather Mountain was shrouded by icy sword chi. Yun Heng was a level 1 astral projection cultivator. Logically, he should not be weaker than Yun Ruhan. But in the blink of an eye, Yun Ruhan killed him until he screamed miserably. "Yun Jifeng, no, Yun Ruhan. If you dare to kill me, the Yun family will not let you off. What are you pieces of trash doing? Hurry up and save me!" But at this time, Yun Heng's subordinates were also suffering. Do you think these talismans are powerful? They cannot stop these nascent soul and astral projection cultivators. But the problem was that Yun Ruhan had too many talismans. After using up one side, he threw out another dozen. When the other side finally managed to block them, he threw out another handful. In an instant, these people's path was blocked once again. Yun Heng's subordinates felt that they could not fight this battle anymore. Have you ever seen anyone throw talismans in a fight? Moreover, every single talisman had a remarkable effect and was extremely valuable. If they had the money to buy so many expensive talismans, they could save it up to buy a 10th grade quasi-divine artifact. Splat! The longsword pierced through Yun Heng's chest, right in the heart. A bone-piercing chill quickly spread from his heart to his limbs and bones, to every inch of his meridians, flesh, and blood. Yun Heng lowered his head in a daze and stared in disbelief at the sword that had pierced through his chest. No! He was the future patriarch of the Yun family, how could he die here? Clearly the one who should have died was Yun Jifeng. he killed Yun Jifeng and kicked his corpse into the unclean abyss. From then on, all of Yun Jifeng's resources belonged to him. In the Yun family, he was doted on and was made the heir. In the Cleansing Joy Pavilion, he was skillful and at ease, using the name of the priest to cultivate a large number of his trusted subordinates. He, Yun Heng, was supposed to be in high spirits, with lofty aspirations. How could he die here without a sound? Yun Ruhan looked coldly at Yun Heng's expression of despair, pain, and unwillingness, but it was slowly returning to a dead silence. Softly, as if muttering to himself, he said, "Yun Jifeng, your great hatred has been avenged, your wish has been fulfilled. From now on, forget the past and reincarnate peacefully, right?" The moment he said this, Yun Heng stopped breathing and closed his eyes completely. He did not know if it was an illusion, but Yun Ruhan felt as if his body had relaxed. The heavy pressure that had been wrapped around his soul slowly dissipated. The top of Green Feather Mountain sank into an eerie silence. When Yun Heng's subordinates came back to their senses, there was a complete uproar. Chapter 2843. You killed young Master Heng? Quick, send a signal to inform Master and Madam. Surround him, quickly surround him, don't let him escape. Yun Ruhan pulled out his longsword, quickly returned to Luo Yu's side, and carried him on his back. Young Master Jifeng. The old woman shouted almost instinctively. But after she said it, she suddenly realized something, and tears poured out of her eyes. Young Master Jifeng, is he really dead? Did Yun Heng really kill him? Yun Ruhan nodded. That day, when I was at my wit's end, Yun Jifeng fell from the cliff. At that time, he was already dead. Only that trace of hatred and unwillingness lingered on the corpse, triggering the demonic energy in the unclean abyss and giving Yun Ruhan a chance to live. I saw with my own eyes that the person who kicked him down stood on the top of the cliff and laughed. But at that time, he didn't know Yun Jifeng and Yun Heng's identities. The old woman's tears fell like rain, and she clutched her chest, wanting to say something. Yun Heng's trusted subordinates had already broken free of the talismans, and all of them fiercely rushed over. Yun Ruhan no longer had any talismans. He didn't dare to delay any longer, and threw out the last random transportation formation disc, and slowly disappeared in the light with Luo Yu. Not long after, Yun Zhaoxing, Xian Menglan, and Xian Yuan arrived. Seeing the dead Yun Heng, Yun Zhaoxing's face was so dark that it could drip water. What the hell is going on? Facing Yun Zhaoxing's rage, the Yun family cultivators all trembled. After a while, someone said shakily, It was young Master Jifeng who killed young Master Heng? No, I heard young Master Heng say that wasn't young Master Jifeng. Young Master Jifeng has been possessed. What? Hearing this answer, Yun Zhaoxing and the other two widened their eyes in shock. Possessed? How is this possible? Xian Menglan reacted and immediately cried, Jifeng, my son. I knew it, I knew my Jifeng wouldn't be so rebellious. Yun Zhaoxing's expression was ferocious, and his eyes were red. How dare you possess my son, Xiaoyao sect? Xiaoyao sect. I will exterminate their entire clan. Master, madam, that's not it. The old woman abruptly came to her senses. Ignoring the pain in her body, she rushed over and said, It was Yun Heng who killed young Master Jifeng. 12 years ago, Yun Heng killed young Master Jifeng. He admitted it himself. After saying that, the old woman repeated what had happened before. The more Yun Zhaoxing and Xian Menglan listened, the uglier their expressions became. Xian Menglan even cried, We groomed Yun Heng as our successor in vain. I didn't expect him to be so vicious and kill our only child. As she spoke, she took out a sword and stabbed Yun Heng's body a few times. Good. If he hadn't been killed today, I would have definitely made him die without a burial place. On the side, Yun Heng's trusted subordinates shrunk their necks, their faces full of fear, not daring to say a word. Xian Yuan walked over and patted Xian Menglan's shoulder. He said warmly, All right, even if this Yun Heng is extremely daring, his death can be considered as avenging Jifeng. The most important thing right now is to capture Yun Ruhan, who's possessed Jifeng's body. That's right. Yun Zhaoxing roared angrily, as if he wanted to vent all the anger and grievances he had accumulated today. Possession is a demonic Tao that the entire cultivation continent has banned. Chapter 2844. This Yun Ruhan carries the title of senior brother of the Xiaoyao sect, and the name One Sword Mountain Sea is known to the whole world. I didn't expect him to be a scum that everyone wants to punish. Xian Yuan squinted his eyes and said slowly, The Xiaoyao sect is full of filth. Yun Ruhan had already fallen into the demonic path after possessing Jifeng's body. And that, fatally beautiful killing god, Jun Mayan, she stole my Mu Lu Pavilion's divine weapon, cry of the ninth heaven's cranes, and stole my Mu Pavilion's inherited secret technique. She actually swindled people outside, and slandered my Mu Pavilion's reputation. This is really intolerable. What? Xian Menglan exclaimed. Jun Mayan stole the Yi cry of the ninth heaven's crane, and my Mu Pavilion's inheritance? Not bad. Xian Yuan sneered. Otherwise, how do you think a mere 20-year-old girl like her would be able to make such a name for herself? One person massacring a city, only Jun Mayan? Ha, that was a first-rate aristocratic family, Fusang City. She, a little girl, was slaughtered by a nobody from the Xiaoyao school. Do you believe that there is nothing fishy about this? Yun Zhaoxing gritted his teeth and said, Father-in-law, if you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten that the Xiaoyao school has always been ruthless. It was said that he had destroyed several families in the Qingyun Blue Realm. Later, he went to Fusang City and destroyed it. He went to the Lian family and caused the Lian family to fall apart. They were so ruthless and didn't leave any leeway when doing things. How is this the style of a righteous sect? This is clearly a demon. Only such a person would dare to possess my son, Ji Feng. Xian Yuan smiled, and his voice was hoarse and bewitching. If we can destroy those demons, the Yun family will get the soul bead, and our Mulu pavilion will get the cry of the nine heavens crane and the inheritance. Then, the northern land will be ours. Why should we worry that the world isn't ours? Yun Zhaoxing and Xian Menglan looked at each other and saw the burning greed in each other's eyes. Only the old woman on the side shed tears of disappointment as she listened to them discuss how to take the soul beads and inheritance for themselves. No one was sad for young Master Ji Feng's death, except for her. Even the young master's biological parents had completely thrown him to the back of their minds, only coveting the benefits in front of them. On the other hand, it was Yun Ruhan, who was known as a demon. It had been 12 years, and he still remembered to take revenge for young Master Ji Feng. In order to fulfill the young master's last wish, he did not hesitate to risk his life. Could such a person really be a demon? Eldest senior brother, did you really possess someone else's body? Just like a few hours ago, Yun Ruhan carried Luoyu through the forest. Hearing Luoyu's question, his footsteps did not stop, but his back slightly stiffened. After a long time, he softly said, "Yes. Xiao Qi, are you afraid of me?" "How is this possible?" Luoyu said without hesitation, "You are the big brother of the Xiaoyao sect. You are, and you will be. Moreover, I believe that unless you have no other choice, eldest senior brother would absolutely not possess another's body." Yun Ruhan's footsteps slowed. After a long while, Luoyu heard a low and hoarse voice, "Yes." Previously, Yun Ruhan lingered in Azure Feather Mountain and did not leave in order to lure out Yun Heng and take revenge for Yun Jifeng. Now that his wish had been fulfilled, he naturally did not delay any further. At this moment, his cultivation had not fully recovered, and he did not have any talismans or array discs on him. Moreover, he had to protect Luoyu. If the Yun family caught up with him, it would be really troublesome. Not long after, the end of Azure Feather Mountain was in front of them. Chapter 28:45. Yun Ruhan and Luoyu heaved a sigh of relief. Leaving Green Feather Mountain was equivalent to leaving the Yun family's sphere of influence. However, right at this moment, an ear-piercing and strange laughter resounded in their ears. He 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 he. He 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 he. Ha 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 ha. Hearing this laughter, Luoyu's scalp went numb. Yun Ruhan's pupils constricted as he turned to look around. Luoyu happened to turn her head and saw his expression. She was stunned. He had never seen eldest senior brother show such an expression. Fear, shock, unease, anger, and despair. "Eldest senior brother, what's wrong?" He 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 he. He 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 he. The laughter continued, as if coming from all directions, inching closer and closer to them. Hearing this laughter, Luoyu felt all the hair on his body stand on end. "Who's there? Hurry up and come out. Laugh, 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 laugh your ass. If you're mentally ill, don't come out to harm others." Just as Luoyu finished scolding, the strange laughter stopped. Then, it became even crazier. Ha 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 ha. "Little prince. Dear little prince. After so many years, you're still so lively. I'm so happy. Hee hee. Hee 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 hee. Do you know how many years I've been looking for you? 15 years, a whole 15 years. In order to wait for you, I've been wandering in this godforsaken place for as long as 15 years. Hee hee hee, but luckily, I've finally found you now." Luoyu frowned and turned to Yun Ruhan. "Little prince? Who is this person calling little prince? Is there something wrong with his brain?" Luoyu's voice stopped abruptly. Because he realized that Yun Ruhan's face was pale, and his body was trembling uncontrollably. "Eldest senior brother? What's wrong?" Yun Ruhan closed his eyes and put Luo Yu down from his back. He said in a low voice, "Come out. What's the point of hiding now that things have come to this? He. Who are you? Who told you to speak to me like that? He. Just as he finished laughing, an attack with the weight of Mount Tai had arrived. Yun Ruhan was prepared and hurriedly raised his sword to block. However, when the two collided, a powerful burst of energy whistled out. Yun Ruhan spat out a mouthful of blood and took several steps back. Eldest brother. Luo Yu couldn't care less about the injury on her leg and rushed over to support him. Almost at the same time, two tall figures slowly appeared in front of them. No, rather than a human figure, it would be more accurate to call it a monster. These two people were 2 meters tall. Their faces were ferocious and terrifying, and their eyes were bulging out. Luo Yu could tell at a glance that this was not a real person, but a puppet. However, this puppet was different from ordinary puppets. There was no need to mention how powerful they were. The most shocking thing was that the pair of protruding eyes could actually move around. Until the 2 pairs of black eyes turned towards Luo Yu. As soon as their mouths opened and closed, the 2 puppets revealed a strange smile at the same time. Little Prince, we haven't seen each other for 15 years. Gueci greets you. Luo Yu was stunned and pointed at herself. Me? The Little Prince? What Little Prince? Idiot, you've got the wrong person, haven't you? Ha. Chapter 2846. 15 years have passed. Your appearance has changed, but I would never mistake the unique aura of the divine beast base on you. Luo Yu was shocked and subconsciously looked at Yun Ruhan. How did this person know that he had the divine beast base's soul orb? The 2 puppets swayed and slowly walked towards Luo Yu. Little Prince, I can't stay in this damn place any longer. Just go back with me obediently. The Imperial Tutor is waiting anxiously for you in the Imperial City. Luo Yu frowned. Go back where? Who is the Grand Tutor? Before he could finish, Yun Ruhan's expression suddenly changed. He suddenly pounced on Luo Yu and pressed him under his body. Boom! A huge wave of energy poured out from one of the puppets. Luo Yu felt the ground shake. The leaves above his head rustled down. What followed was a warm, bloody liquid, which instantly filled his neck and clothes. Luo Yu turned her head to look in a daze. Her eyes widened bit by bit as she glared at him. Eldest senior brother. Little 7, don't be afraid. I'm fine. Yun Ruhan stood up and forced a smile. Do you think eldest senior brother will be defeated so easily? You're already so old, yet you're still crying? Luo Yu touched his face and realized it was wet and warm. He immediately felt embarrassed. He looked at the 2 puppets with an unfriendly gaze. Is there something wrong with your brain? Who's your little prince? Which corner of the world did a lunatic like you come from? The puppet opened its mouth, revealing bloody teeth and tongue. It seems that the little prince is not pretending to be stupid. He doesn't remember at all. He, this is normal. After all, 15 years ago, the little prince was still young. Even if he was possessed by the divine beast, he wouldn't have been able to take such a huge blow. He. Luo Yu frowned. He suddenly felt a wave of irritation. He had grown up in the Xiaoyao sect. How could he be a prince? But why did he have the divine beast base in his body? Why didn't eldest senior brother allow him to summon the divine beast base and show it to others? Be good, little prince. My patience has long been exhausted in the past 15 years. Now, obediently come back with me. I promise I will be very gentle. Otherwise, he, don't blame me for offending you, little prince. His voice hadn't even finished resounding through the air when the 2 puppets suddenly vanished on the spot. Little 7, be careful. Yun Ruhan raised her sword to block, but she heard Luo Yu say loudly, eldest senior brother, don't worry about me. The one on the left is yours, and the one on the right is mine. As he spoke, the spiritual energy in his body surged and his fingers flicked in the air. In an instant, countless gravel and vegetation flew towards him. After a burst of light, the rubble and vegetation actually condensed into a 2-story tall humanoid figure. Puppets. This was a puppet formed in the blink of an eye. Luo Yu turned around and raised her chin at Yun Ruhan. Eldest senior brother, I'm also a member of the Unfettered 7. Don't underestimate me. Her appearance was arrogant and cunning, indescribably lively. Yun Ruhan was startled, and then her lips curled into a faint smile. His little 7 had really grown up. Seeing the puppet that Luo Yu had formed in an instant, the 2 puppets opposite her stopped in their tracks. 2 pairs of protruding eyes looked back and forth between Luo Yu and the puppets. Then, they started giggling. Chapter 2847. Puppet control with a flip of the hand, summoning with a flip of the hand. Little prince, you are indeed the only summoner to inherit the pure bloodline of the Beast King in 10,000 years. If you were given a little more time, even I would not be your match. What a pity, you're still too young. As soon as he finished speaking, the two puppets slowly raised their hands and punched forward. This movement was extremely slow, as if it did not contain any spiritual power. But when the punch was thrown, it was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. The huge puppet that Luo Yu had just formed was instantly turned to dust. The huge impact was not over yet. After destroying the puppet, it roared towards Luo Yu and Yun Ruhan like a tornado. Pfft! The two of them flew backwards and fell to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Luo Yu looked at the two puppets in shock. At this moment, he finally felt the crushing difference in strength. Both of these puppets were beyond the 5th stage of the tribulation realm. But he and Grand Senior Brother were only at the nascent soul stage. On the cultivation continent, the number of cultivators who could reach the tribulation passing stage could be counted on 10 fingers. A tribulation passing cultivator wanted to kill a nascent soul cultivator. It was as easy as killing an ant. He seemed to be very satisfied with the result he had caused. The two puppets grinned and let out strange laughter. Little prince, don't be anxious. Let me take care of the irrelevant people first, then I will bring you back to the floating island. The puppet on the left took a step towards Yun Ruhan, causing the ground to shake violently. Who dares to hurt Grand Senior Brother? Luo Yu roared. He could no longer care about his rationality, and the spiritual power in his body circulated wildly. The two soul orbs on his back, one red and one white, shone brightly. Between the heavens and the earth, a terrifying pressure spread out. But before the two soul orbs could float out of his body, the puppet on the right seemed to have predicted this and swung its hand. A black rope shot out and wrapped around Luo Yu like a venomous snake, binding him tightly. The light on his back flickered for a while before finally dissipating. Luo Yu's face instantly turned pale. He fell to the ground, his body twitching. Xiao-Qi, how are you? Yun Ruhan rushed over to help Luo Yu up, but was pulled back by the puppet on the left. The heavy left foot clamped down on his throat, pinning him to the ground. TSK, little prince, even if you're still very weak, this subordinate is still a little afraid of the divine beast by Zhe. So, for the sake of safety, I can only use the soul restraining chain to make you obedient. The puppet on the right chuckled and walked towards Luo Yu, who was rolling on the ground. Previously, when Luo Yu was tortured by the Yun family, she didn't even make a sound. However, at this moment, he was rolling on the ground in pain. Even though he tried his best to endure it, he still couldn't help but let out a painful groan. His clothes were soaked with sweat. A pair of hands that had just regrown clawed at the ground. A moment later, they were covered in bloody scars. Seeing Luo Yu like this, the puppet's laughter became even more unbridled. Little prince, stop struggling. This soul restraining chain was personally bestowed by the Imperial Preceptor for the purpose of sealing the soul orbs within you beast emperors. However, because the soul restraining chains are too powerful, there will be some pain during the sealing process. As the puppet spoke, it crouched down. Its cold, ashen hands grabbed Luo Yu's hair, revealing his face, which was already drenched in sweat and blood. Chapter 2848. TSK, who would have thought that the high and mighty little prince would be reduced to such a pitiful state? I wonder how heartbroken the former empress would be if she saw her only son like this. It's a pity that that woman died 15 years ago. Not even her ashes were left, ha. The hand grabbing Luo Yu's hair tightened. The soul arresting chains on Luo Yu's body tightened as well. The pain, which was already unbearable, instantly increased tenfold, 100-fold, on Luo Yu's body. Luo Yu couldn't take it anymore and let out a mournful wail. Ha. Keep screaming. My honorable royal highness, when I see you in such a state, which is even worse than a dog, my heart is really... Boom! Before the perverted laughter and words could finish, the hand that had been grabbing Luo Yu's hair was suddenly sliced off at the elbow. The puppet's entire body was sent flying by the huge force, smashing through dozens of trees before landing on the ground. The puppet struggled to get up. Seeing the scene not far away, its bulging eyes trembled violently. His voice, which was still laughing in a perverted manner just a moment ago, instantly turned into a trembling voice filled with fear. Ghost Lan Luohan, how are you still alive? 12 years ago, didn't you perish together with Black Eagle? The torturous pain on his body seemed to lighten and fade away, becoming numb. Luo Yu struggled to lift his eyes. In a daze, he saw a figure that seemed both familiar and strange standing in front of him. It was a young man shrouded in inky black energy. Luo Yu couldn't see his face clearly. He only knew that this back that was guarding him, was very familiar. At the young man's feet lay the corpse of a puppet that had already been torn to pieces. And the lifeless Yunruhan. Eldest senior brother. Luo Yu was shocked, but the voice that came out of her mouth was so weak, so hoarse. Eldest senior brother. Eldest senior brother. Luo Yu shouted as he crawled towards Yunruhan's corpse. Tears blurred his eyes and mixed with sweat and blood, forming a sticky mess on his face. But Luo Yu couldn't care about anything else. All he knew was that his eldest senior brother, who had been protecting him, was dead. How could eldest brother die? Xiaoqi, don't be afraid. Just as Luo Yu's bloodied hand was about to touch the corpse, a low and hoarse voice rang in her ear. This wasn't Yunruhan's voice, but it had the same tone. Gentle, steady, tolerant, and doting. Xiaoqi, big brother is here. I won't let anyone hurt you. This voice was clearly unfamiliar and distant, but it made him feel so at ease. It was as if as long as this person was there, he would be safe, and he would never be alone. Luo Yu tried her best to blink, wanting to see the face in front of her clearly. However, her consciousness became more and more blurry. The man raised his hand lightly, and qi surged out, placing the unconscious Luo Yu onto Yunruhan's body so that he could sleep more comfortably. He then turned his attention to the remaining puppet. The hoarse voice was no longer as gentle and tolerant as before. What was left was an endless bone-piercing chill. Chapter 2849. Guaci, it's been more than a decade, but your cowardly nature hasn't changed at all. Even though you know I'm dead, even though you've confirmed the location of the soul orb, you don't even have the courage to find it yourself. Heh, do you really think I can't do anything to you just because you sent 2 puppets? Guaci's puppet trembled and staggered a step back, but it immediately stood still. He looked at the man in front of him. Under the scorching sun, even though the man was surrounded by a thick layer of black gas, he seemed to be transparent, as if he could be melted by the sun at any time. Guaci's gaze turned to Yunruhan's body. He suddenly opened his mouth and said in a sharp voice, "Possession. 12 years ago, you actually used the body possession technique to escape this calamity. Lan Luohan, don't you know that if the Lan clan is tainted by the evil Tao, they will be despised by the gods? Their bodies will rot before death and they will never enter the cycle of reincarnation. So what?" Yunruhan said word by word. So what? A pair of bloodthirsty eyes stared at him from the lingering black fog. Even though it was only a puppet, it still made Guaci shiver. Lunatic, Lan Luohan, you really are a lunatic. Not only did you use the possession technique, but you also forcibly broke away from the fused body. Guaci's trembling voice paused and suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, I'm really stupid. Forcibly breaking away from the body is equivalent to entering death prematurely. The body has begun to rot, and the netherworld is beckoning to you. What awaits you is only the dissipation of your soul and eternal damnation. Ha 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 ha, facing a real dead person, what do I have to fear? The puppet swayed and rushed toward Yunruhan. What's more, this is only a puppet with my soul attached to it. You don't even have a body now. Do you really think you're still that demon who can kill gods and Buddhas? Boom! The puppet punched out, but its target was not the man shrouded in black fog, but Yunruhan's corpse on the ground. As long as the vessel shattered, no matter how powerful Lan Luohan's consciousness was, she would be instantly disintegrated by the heavenly Tao. However, this fist seemed to freeze in midair. A slender hand shrouded in black energy slowly pressed against the puppet's heart. He suddenly grabbed with his 5 fingers. Ah! Phantom Sting let out a shrill scream. The puppet was instantly torn apart and fell to the ground. Far away on the heavenly Phoenix mountain range, Phantom Sting spat out a mouthful of blood and almost fainted. Yunruhan retracted her hand and kicked away the remains of the puppet. She walked towards the unconscious Luo Yu. He closed his eyes and tried his best to retract the black gas around him. Finally, it stopped in front of Yunruhan. I can't die yet. I can't let my soul dissipate yet. He whispered in a low and hoarse voice, I want to send Xiaoqi to junior sister's side. Yun Jifeng, I beg you, lend me a little more time, I beg you. Suddenly, the swirling black energy surged toward Yunruhan's corpse. The 2 figures slowly fused together. Soon, Yunruhan opened her eyes again and revealed a grateful smile. Thank you, Yun Jifeng. However, at this moment, a cold and stern voice came from the sky. Chapter 2850. I will never allow a demon like you to stay by my side. Yunruhan's heart sank bit by bit. Ning Su. The young master suicide who hated demons the most, Ning Su. No matter what reason Yunruhan had, no matter if Yun Jifeng was already dead when he took over Yun Jifeng's body. Possession was a demonic path after all. Just look at how Ning Su refused to let little Uncle Master go because Chi-Wen was a demonic beast. She knew that he would not let her go either. Right now, Yun Ruhan's soul had been damaged. He had just merged with Yun Jifeng's body. If he wanted to leave again, his soul would be destroyed. Against Ning Su, he had no chance of winning at all. Yun Ruhan lowered his head and looked at the bloodied and unconscious Luo Yu. His clenched fist slowly relaxed, and his lips curled into a relieved smile. I am indeed a demon who took over a body and was reborn. He looked up at Ning Su, who was slowly landing, his voice hoarse and calm. But Xiao Qi is not. He is a true spirit cultivator. He is innocent. You can kill me, but please, send Xiao Qi back to little junior sister and let her save him. Ning Su said coldly. As long as you prove that he is not a demonic cultivator and will not protect a demon, I will naturally send him to Mayan for treatment. Yun Ruhan looked at Luo Yu one last time, and reached out to brush the grass off his face. Xiao Qi, I am sorry. I can no longer protect you. He smiled faintly, then looked up and closed his eyes, calmly waiting for Ning Su to take his life. Buzz. The demon-slaying sword buzzed violently, suddenly unsheathing and attacking Yun Ruhan's heart. However, the expected pain did not come. Yun Ruhan was sent flying by the impact. He opened his eyes, only to find that Luo Yu had woken up and was blocking in front of him. She had used her bloodied hands to block Ning Su's demon-slaying sword. Of course, this was also because Ning Su had realized that Luo Yu was coming over, so he withdrew the spiritual energy on the demon-slaying sword. Otherwise, Luo Yu's hands would have been crippled. Young Master Destiny, what are you doing? Luo Yu couldn't be bothered to look at her hands that were throbbing in pain. She glared fiercely at Ning Su. Did my eldest senior brother offend you? You want to kill him? Ning Su gripped the demon-slaying sword that had flown back to him and said coldly, everyone has the right to punish the heretical demons. From the moment he took over someone else's body, he should have known what would happen to him. Luo Yu laughed coldly. It's clear that the owner of this body died first, so my eldest senior brother borrowed it. In the face of life and death, there was no other choice, and he did not harm others to benefit himself. How could he be considered a demon? Young Master Jueming, don't tell me you've become obsessed with killing demons every day? Ning Su sneered. Possession is the path of devil cultivators. Whether or not they take someone's life, wrong is wrong, and the path of evil is the path of evil. I, Ning Su, have sworn to kill all the demons in the world. How can I allow him to escape from my hands today? Furthermore, such an evil demon is actually lurking by Mu Yan's side. Just what is his motive? At this point, Ning Su's eyes surged with a crazy murderous intent. The veins on his forehead bulged, and his eyes were bloodshot. His entire face instantly became crazed and malevolent. I will never allow you to lead Mu Yan astray. I will never allow such a thing to happen again. Lan Luoyu, by shielding Yun Ruhan, are you going to wallow in the mire with this devil cultivator? Chapter 2851. Very well, I will kill both of you with my demon-slaying sword today. Dark clouds billowed in the sky and the mountains shook. The demon-slaying sword was unsheathed again. The sword split into 10 shadows, cold light filling the air. Each ray of light contained a bone-chilling killing intent. Yun Ruhan's expression was cold. He could kill him. But if anyone wanted to touch Xiao Qi, he would not allow it even if he died. Xiao Qi, stand behind me. Luo Yu shook his head resolutely. Spiritual energy surged in his body and the orb of souls behind him glowed. Yun Ruhan was shocked. Xiao Qi, you were injured by the soul restraining chains. You cannot use the orb of souls again. Luo Yu turned back, his pale, cracked lips curling into a smile. His smile was quick-witted and crafty, just like the junior brother who usually wanted to do bad things. Only his voice was hoarse and weak. First senior brother, you're always protecting me. This time, it's Xiao Qi's turn to protect you, okay? Boom! 2 dazzling rays of light, one red and one white, shot into the sky. They transformed into Bai Zhe and Bai Fang in midair and soared between heaven and earth. The red Bai Fang was still fine, it was just faintly emitting a scorching heat. But the moment Bai Zhe appeared, the world seemed to be shrouded by a terrifying pressure. The spirit beasts of Green Feather Mountain, who had been agitated by the battle, fell silent and trembled. Ning Su looked up at Bai Zhe in the sky, even forgetting to control the demon-slaying sword. When he looked at Luo Yu again, there was only shock in his eyes. Bai Zhe, what is your relationship with the royal family of Floating Island? Sweat dripped from Luo Yu's forehead like rain. His consciousness, which had just cleared, faded bit by bit. He bit the tip of his tongue until a piercing pain came and the taste of rust filled his mouth and teeth. Only then did he manage to maintain his tottering body. Roar! An earth-shattering roar sounded. Bai Zai slowly lowered its eyes, raised its front paw, and slammed it down at Ningsu. This movement could be said to be extremely slow. But Ningsu acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He immediately called back the demon-slaying sword and slashed in the air. Bang! With a crash, Ningsu was pushed back dozens of meters, his face pale. Bai Zai did not move, its eyes cold. But Luoyu, who was controlling it, spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing that its master was injured, the Baifang let out a crisp cry. Its entire body turned into flames as it pounced towards Ningsu. However, Ningsu did not take the Baifang seriously at all. With a casual swing of the demon-slaying sword, the Baifang let out a cry of agony and flew backward, dispersing into the air. Luoyu spat out another mouthful of blood. Ningsu looked at him with a complicated expression, then glanced at Bai Zai with fear. Rumor has it that the Lan royal family discovered the true bloodline inheritance of the beast monarch more than 10 years ago. They can control hundreds of beasts, control the world, build a floating island, build a stairway to heaven, and recreate the glory of 10,000 years ago. But no one mentioned this rumor after a few years, as if it had never happened. I also thought that it was just a rumor. But it turned out to be true. In today's cultivation continent, where immortal energy was depleted and only spiritual energy was left, with his extremely low nascent soul cultivation level, he actually managed to summon the true body of the divine beast, Bai Zai. Who else but someone with a pure beast king bloodline could achieve such an ability? Luoyu only felt as if there was something boiling and burning inside him. His vision became blurrier and Ning Su's voice became more and more distant. He almost could not see clearly. However, he stood straight, unwilling to take a single step back. Chapter 2852. He also ordered Bai Zai to not let Yun Ruhan leave his side. He knew he had to protect his eldest senior brother. Ning Su said slowly, "The floating island survived because of the Beast King. You have the purest Beast King bloodline. I don't want to kill you. As long as you leave now, I won't hurt you. I'll take you to Mu Yan later. She'll have a way to save you." Luoyu tried to speak, eldest senior brother. Ning Su's face turned cold. "I once swore to kill all the demons in the world. Since he's tainted by the demonic Tao, he's destined to die by my demon-slaying sword. This has nothing to do with your Xiaoyao sect. After I end him, I won't cause trouble for you. Chiwen was just a demon. He couldn't kill her, so that was fine. But Yun Ruhan had been reborn by possession. She was a true demon. If I let him live today, how can I call it suicide? What right do I have to kill all the demons in the world in the future?" Yun Ruhan said anxiously, "Shao Qi, get out of the way." Luoyu smiled. Her body swayed slightly, but her feet didn't move. "Then there's nothing more to say. If you want to kill my eldest senior brother, you'll have to do it over my dead body." Ning Su's eyes were murderous. "Lan Luoyu, how long do you think you can summon Bai Zai with your nascent soul cultivation? Do you really think I don't dare to kill you?" Luoyu gritted her teeth. Bai Zai let out another roar and slammed its palm down on Ning Su. Ning Su's hands formed a seal in the air. The demon-slaying sword split into 10 swords in the air again, making a buzzing sound. "I set my life for the common people, set my heart for the heavens and earth, and slay all the demons in the world. I have no choice but to kill the descendant of the Beast King. Lan Luoyu, since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish." Boom! The 10 demon-slaying swords collided with Bai Zai. Bai Zai slapped down 3 demon-slaying swords. But when it tried to attack a second time, its figure became fainter and fainter. Bai Zai glanced at Luoyu and disappeared in the air unwillingly. The remaining 7 demon-slaying swords pounced at Luoyu like snakes. Yun Ruhan pulled Luoyu over and hugged him tightly in her arms. He used his back to catch the 7 demon-slaying swords. "Eldest brother!" Luoyu let out a shrill scream. She wanted to struggle, but her body had no strength at all. He could only watch as the first demon-slayer sword pierced through Yun Ruhan's body. Hot blood gushed onto his neck for the second time, burning his eyes red. The second round. Just then, a sharp, ear-piercing sound of a zither whistled over from the distant horizon. The barrier formed by the notes of the zither enveloped Luoyu and Yun Ruhan at the critical moment, blocking the second demon slayer sword. The third one. "Big brother Ning, please show mercy. Mayan's urgent shout comes from afar, don't hurt my fellow apprentice." Hearing this familiar voice, Ning Su's mind was thrown into disarray. He lost control of the demon-slaying sword. It swayed in the air and slowly dissipated the shadow of the sword before returning to its sheath. Luoyu raised her blood-stained eyes and looked at the figure flying towards her. She gave a relaxed smile. Little Seven, eldest brother, how did you get injured like this?" Seeing the two covered in wounds, the eyes of the 5 turned red. There seemed to be a ringing in their ears, completely filled with anger. Even Chu Moli, who had always been cold and unfathomable, said word by word, "Little Seven, speak, who hurt you?" Chapter 2853. The youngest disciple of the Xiaoyao sect who grew up with care and pampered him. How could he be hurt to such an extent? Luo Yu blinked her eyes. Tears mixed with blood rolled down her cheeks. However, the dimples on her cheeks appeared faintly. Sixth senior sister, second senior brother, third senior brother, fourth senior sister, fifth senior brother, I knew you would come. Therefore, even in the most painful and difficult times, he had never despaired or given up. He won't let himself die, and he won't let his eldest brother die. Because he knows that as long as he holds on, he will be able to. Sixth sister and the others will definitely arrive, and they will pull them back from the gates of hell. Because they are the Xiaoyao Seven. They advance and retreat together, live and die together. None of them can be missing, right? Mayan calms down and goes forward to check on the two's injuries. Yun Ruhan says, "Look at Xiao Qi first." He takes a step back and gives Luo Yu to Mayan. He also hides his hand, which has begun to rot, into his sleeve. Mayan nods and grasps Luo Yu's wrist to feel her pulse. The more she checks, the more gloomy her face becomes. She takes out the Tian Mo Qin, sounds it, and activates the art of Qi Huang. Countless silver threads rush out from the Tian Mo Qin and enter Luo Yu's body. At the same time, the phantom is activated. A second Mayan appears, playing floating like a dream, making Luo Yu sink into a beautiful dream. This treatment lasts for half an hour. Mayan slowly opens her eyes and wipes the sweat from her forehead. How is Xiao Qi? Mayan slowly exhales. The heaven-eroding water has eroded his internal organs. Although I tried my best to clean and repair them, I couldn't avoid the excruciating pain. But the heaven-eroding water isn't the most troublesome. The most troublesome thing was that the soul orb in Luo Yu's body had been damaged by another sinister force, the soul restraining chains. Moreover, Luo Yu had overdrawn her spiritual power to activate her soul orb, causing her injuries to worsen. Yun Ruhan anxiously says, "What about Xiao Qi in the future?" "Don't worry." Mayan smiles, "I've already repaired his soul orb. I guarantee that it won't affect his future cultivation. However, the removal of the sky-eroding water would take more than a month. During this period of time, Xiao Qi would have to endure inhumane pain. I can't let him stay in the fleeting life like a dream all the time, it's not good for his divine soul." Pausing for a moment, Mu Yan's eyes are suffused with a cold killing intent. In the end, who was it that used such a sinister method to torture Xiao Qi? Suddenly, she thought of something and looked at Ning Su suspiciously. "Big brother Ning, if I am not mistaken, you want to kill Xiao Qi and eldest senior brother? Could it be that Xiao Qi's injuries were caused by you?" With that said, Ling Yuma and the others all stood beside Mu Yan, staring at Ning Su covetously. It was as if as long as he said yes, he would disregard the difference in strength and tear him into pieces. Ning Su shook his head. "I don't want to kill Lan Luoyu." Mu Yan is slightly relieved. In reality, she did not believe that Ning Su was such a person. But his next words startle Mu Yan. "The person I want to kill is Yun Ruhan." Mu Yan is startled, suspecting that she heard wrong. "Big brother Ning, what did you say?" Ling Yuma says angrily, "Is there something wrong with your brain? Last time, you wanted to kill my youngest martial uncle. This time, you point at my eldest senior brother and say that he is a demon. Do you fucking accuse people of being demons every time you catch them on the street?" Chapter 2854. Ning Su's expression was cold as he stared at Mu Yan. "You also think that I'm a vile person who can't tell right from wrong?" Mu Yan said coldly, "I don't believe that brother Ning is a vile person, but I don't believe that my eldest senior brother is a demon." Ning Su sneered, "You can ask him whether he is or not." Yun Ruhan took one last look at the unconscious Luo Yu, then slowly stood up and walked over to Ning Su. "I'll go with you. Kill me or torture me as you wish. But this has nothing to do with anyone else in the Xiaoyao sect." "Eldest senior brother?" Yun Ruhan turned around and looked at the 5 people who were looking at him anxiously. His lips curled up into a peaceful and relieved smile. "I'm sorry that I lied to you. I wasn't a good person in the past, and this body isn't mine. I took over Yun Jifeng's body, and that's why I'm still alive. I don't deserve to be a member of the Xiaoyao sect, and I don't deserve to be your eldest senior brother. Now, it's time for me to pay the price for what I've done in the past." With that, Yun Ruhan turned around and walked over to Ning Su without hesitation, ready to be executed. Ning Su was used to seeing all kinds of demons. Some were guilty, some were remorseful, some begged for mercy, some were stubborn, and some gave up resisting. But no matter what, demons were demons, and they were people he had to kill. He could no longer feel any sympathy or pity for them. Buzz dash. The demon-slaying sword kept vibrating, as if it was about to leave its sheath. However, the next moment, a sharp sound of a zither rang out, immediately suppressing the demon-slaying sword. Mu Yen said with a sullen face, "We haven't made things clear yet, but eldest senior brother, you look like you're going to the execution ground with your last words. That's not very good, is it? Do you think we'll listen to you and let you be killed?" "That's right." Ling Yuma said anxiously. "What possession? What Yun Jifeng? What's going on? You've been in the Xiaoyao sect for so many years, and you've never harmed anyone. How are you a demon?" Chu Moli lightly tapped the armrest of his wheelchair. There was a gentle and faint smile on his face. However, this smile did not reach his eyes. Young noble destiny is really interesting. There are millions and millions of evil spirits in the world, but young noble Ning seems to be targeting our carefree sect. Last time, for the sake of a magical beast that didn't kill a single person, you shouted at my young martial uncle to kill him. Of course, in the end, your skills were inferior and you could only retreat with your tail between your legs. Now, he wants to get back at us, so he's targeting our eldest senior brother again? Chu Moli was usually a quiet and low-key person. However, in the entire Xiaoyao sect, he was the most cunning one. Normally, it was fine if he didn't speak, but once he did, his venomous tongue was like a knife that could stab people's hearts. Sure enough, Ning Su's face turned green and black, and the anger in his eyes almost spewed out. Yun Ruhan frowned and stepped forward to speak. Chu Moli smiled lightly. "However, since young Master Ning has accused our eldest senior brother of being a demon, we naturally have to hear the charges. Do mortals need witnesses and material evidence to judge mortals? Young Master Ning wouldn't be planning to kill him without a charge, right?" Yun Ruhan opened her mouth. "Eldest senior brother, just shut your mouth for now." Chu Moli smiled and looked coldly at Yun Ruhan. "We don't want to hear your own statement right now. We only want to hear young Master Ning's side of the story." Mu Yen also nodded. "Big brother Ning, you should also know that I won't agree to killing eldest senior brother for no reason." Chapter 2855. You said that eldest senior brother took over someone else's body, what's going on? Hearing Mayan's question, Ning Su suppresses the anger provoked by Chu Moli, and coldly tells her about how Yun Ruhan took over Yun Jifeng's body 12 years ago. Mayan frowns. "I don't believe that eldest senior brother would deliberately harm a person's life. Could it be that when eldest senior brother took over Yun Jifeng's body, Yun Jifeng was already dead? So what?" Ning Su's face darkens. "Possession and rebirth is an evil path. Whether it's a living person or a dead person, it's forbidden by the cultivation world. Mayan, have you ever thought that if the 3 realms and the 6 realms all thought that possession of the dead was a matter of course, what kind of discussion would there be in the world? How would moral ethics be corrupted? How would people's selfishness and greed be tempted and magnified?" Yun Ruhan shows a bitter smile and lowers her eyes. In fact, Ning Su's words are right. There is a reason why the cultivation world forbids possession and rebirth. Because once this gap is torn open, there will be countless cultivators who will do heartless things because of their own selfish desires. This is also the reason why Yun Ruhan never thought of arguing after Ning Su appeared. "You don't have to say anymore." Yun Ruhan says hoarsely, "This is a sin I created, I should bear the consequences. Take Xiao Qi and leave." Most importantly, Yun Ruhan moves her fingers, and her fingertips can already touch the rotting liver mortis spreading on her wrist. Most importantly, it's already impossible for him to live. Why would she implicate her fellow disciples? "Eldest senior brother, what kind of joke is this?" Ling Yuma anxiously says, "Even if you took over and rebirth, you didn't hurt anyone, why can't you live?" Ling Yuxing resolutely says, "We won't go, the Xiaoyao 7 will advance and retreat together. If possession and rebirth is a crime, then the 7 of us will bear it together." Qin Jiu's face turns red from anxiety, but she can only spit out a few words. "Eldest senior brother, is not an evil spirit." Mayan suddenly says, "Big brother Ning, you said that eldest senior brother taking over and rebirth is wrong, but what if the owner of this body, Yun Jifeng, is willing?" After saying that, without waiting for everyone to react, she spins around and sits on the ground. The Tian Mo Qin appears, and her fingers quickly pluck the strings. The sound of the zither, which sounded like flowing water, rang out, and the benevolence of the saint was activated. Gradually, wisps of misty white light appeared around Yun Ruhan. Faintly, a voice rang out from the white ball of light, "It's not possession, it's not possession. I called him over and over again, begged him to avenge me, that's why he was summoned to my side. Yun Ruhan, I'm very grateful to you. Thank you for saving my mother, and thank you for killing Yunhing for me. I, Yun Jifeng, have never blamed you for taking over my body. You are not a demon, but my salvation. Yun Ruhan's eyes widened as she listened to the voice that seemed to be near yet far, and her vision gradually blurred. At this moment, the shackles that had been cast in his heart slowly crumbled. Lang Yuma was so happy that she cried, I knew Big Senior Brother was not a demon. Hey! Ning-Su, did you hear that? Even Yun Jifeng himself said that my eldest senior brother didn't seize possession, but his salvation. The sound of Mayan's zither still rang out, and a gentle and holy energy flowed little by little from the Tian Mo Chin into the ball of light that belonged to Yun Jifeng's divine soul. Yun Jifeng, since you've already been redeemed, then go and reincarnate. Don't continue to waste your divine soul in this mortal world. Chapter 2856. The ball of light gently swayed in Mu Yan's direction, and a low thank you echoed between heaven and earth. Then, the ball of light slowly dissipated. Mu Yan put away the Tian Mo Chin and looked at Ning-Su. Brother Ning, can you answer what I just said? If it was Yun Jifeng's own will that my senior brother took over Yun Jifeng's body, then is he still considered to have been reincarnated? Ning-Su said coldly, there's no difference. As soon as these words came out, even though Mu Yan had always been grateful and had a good impression of Ning-Su, it completely dissipated in an instant. Ning-Su said word by word, a demon is a demon. Whether intentional or not, as long as one steps onto this evil path, they will be abandoned by the heavens, and they will also bring destruction to the people around them. As long as it's a demon, I will kill it. Mu Yan said coldly, if I was the one who became a demon, would Brother Ning also kill me? Ning-Su was clearly stunned, then shook his head heavily, you won't. He said through gritted teeth, you definitely won't be a demonic cultivator, and I will never allow that kind of thing to happen again. That might not be true. Mu Yan thought to herself. If she had nothing to do with demons, how could she have walked out of the uncleanst abyss unscathed? But she didn't talk about this. Instead, she walked forward and pulled Yun Ruhan back to stand in front of him. Just pretend that I won't become a demon, but what if I insist on not letting Brother Ning touch my senior brother? Her eyes stared straight into Ning-Su's. Those peach blossom eyes that were extremely similar to hers. Brother Ning wants to be my enemy? My entire Xiaoyao school's enemy? Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Ling Yuma, and Ling Yuxing walked over one by one and stood by Mu Yan's side. They didn't speak, but their expressions and actions made it clear. They would never allow anyone to hurt their senior brother. Ning-Su took a step back and pressed his right hand on the hilt of the demon-slaying sword, holding it tightly. Blue veins popped out on the back of his hand and forehead. Ning-Su's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Mu Yan. Why? Why do you protect him even though you know he's a demon? Mu Yan said coldly, you forced the demon on my senior brother, we won't admit it. I only know that if anyone wants to kill my eldest senior brother, they'll have to do it over my dead body. Again and again. Again and again. Ning-Su's eyes turned redder and redder. His body trembled slightly as if he was trying to control the emotions in his body. Why did you betray me time and time again and choose this demon? All right. Good. If you want to risk your lives to protect him, then I'll fulfill your wish. Ning-Su roared and the demon slayer was unsheathed. Jun Mayan, you forced me to do this. I'd rather kill you with my own hands than let you follow in her footsteps and mix with the evil spirit. A terrifying pressure poured out, as if it was going to cause the world to collapse and the mountains and rivers to change color. The faces of the people of the Xiaoyao sect turned pale. Their blood was boiling and they almost spat out blood. They had already witnessed Ning-Su's terrifying strength outside Fusang City. But at that time, they weren't the target. At this moment, they finally realized how terrifying this man's strength was. All of you retreat and protect Xiao Qi and eldest senior brother. Mu Yan soared into the sky and the sound of the zither resounded. Her figure instantly split into two. One was playing the Tian Mo Chin, and the other had taken out a talisman. This talisman was drawn for her by Di Mingju with great effort. Chapter 2857. As long as he used up all his spiritual power to make one strike, he could defeat any tribulation-passing cultivator. Yes, any one. Whether the tribulation-passing cultivator was first stage, ninth stage, or peak stage. They could all be defeated with one move from this talisman. She knew that Ning-Su's cultivation was far beyond the tribulation-passing stage. He wasn't even from this Xiozhen continent. The six of them were no match for Ning-Su. However, even if Ning-Su's cultivation was higher than the tribulation-passing stage, as long as he was on this Xiozhen continent, his strength would be suppressed to the pseudo-immortal realm. This was the rule of heaven. Except for Di Mingju who had cultivated divine power, no one could go against it. As long as he was still in the pseudo-immortal realm, her talisman could still fight. The spiritual power in Mu Yan's body surged wildly into the talisman in her hand. Soon, even the doppelganger created by the heavy phantom also surged into the talisman. Whoosh! A dazzling light exploded in the sky. The talisman burned completely and transformed into a huge sword. With the pressure of Mount Tai, it chopped down towards Ning Su. Ning Su didn't expect that Mu Yan would have such a trump card. Caught off guard, he only had time to pull out the demon-slaying sword to block. Crack! A sharp pain came from his arm. Ning Su could feel that the hand holding the demon-slaying sword was breaking inch by inch. His expression changed and he couldn't hold back anymore. The immortal energy in his body surged and he resisted the pain to resist the crushing of the huge sword. This crushing lasted for more than a minute. Ning Su felt that the immortal energy in his dantian had been consumed by 70 to 80%, and the energy in the talisman was gradually used up. Only then did the overwhelming attack and pressure slowly dissipate. The demon-slaying sword in Ning Su's hand fell to the ground and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked up, but there was no one in the sky or the opposite side. The moment Mu Yan activated the talisman, the people of the Xiaoyao sect had already made their preparations. Qin Jiu took Chu Moli. Leng Yuma took Xiao Qi. Ling Yuxing carried Mu Yan on his back and dragged Yun Ruhan away as fast as lightning. Ning Su resisted the piercing pain in his arm and dantian. He used his immortal energy again to repair his arm that had been smashed into pieces. His originally limp arm, which had been crushed into powder, actually grew back. If others were to see this scene, they would definitely be indescribably shocked. Ning Su was not a doctor, but he could actually reconstruct flesh and bones. After a full 2 hours, Ning Su's arm finally regrown. However, the celestial force in his dantian was completely depleted. Unless he returned to the floating island to replenish it, he wouldn't even be able to reach 50% of his strength. However, Ning Su had no desire to go back. He looked in the direction that Mu Yan and the others had left in. His expression was calm, but his eyes were burning with a bone-chilling flame. Demons must be killed. I'd rather kill wrongly than let them go. Jun Mayan, why would you betray me like her? Why do you want to protect demons? You forced me to do this. Xiaoxian Continent, Netherworld region. Yun Xiao, quickly look at your brother. The Netherworld Holy Spirit was fine before, how did it become like this? Fu Yushu's eyes were red from crying. She dragged Luo Yunxiao to the bed. A half-naked young man was lying on the bed. It was Luo Yunxiao's younger brother, Yin Yuani. Compared to a few months ago, he was high-spirited and full of energy. At this time, Yin Yuani was really a bit miserable. Chapter 2858. The rune of the Netherworld Sacred Fire on Yin Yuani's back was originally cut out from Luo Yunxiao's body. When it was displayed in front of the believers of the Nether Realm, the pattern of the Resurrection Lily was still bright and dazzling. But now it had become a mass of darkness, and its original appearance couldn't be seen at all. The most terrible thing was that this mass of darkness wasn't smooth. Instead, it was made up of countless small black spots. If one looked closely, they would find that these black spots were actually small holes. When Yin Yuani's body moved up and down, pus and maggots would gush out of the holes. Seeing this scene, even Luo Yunxiao couldn't help showing a look of astonishment. She clearly remembered that when the Netherworld Sacred Fire was transferred to Yin Yuani, it was perfectly integrated. After that, in several battles, Yin Yuani did show strength several times stronger than before. That proved that the power of the Netherworld Sacred Fire was absorbed by him. However, in just a few short months, he had become so miserable. Qi Wen, who was in the pet bag, couldn't help laughing. Damn it, how did Yin Yuani become like this? Ha ha ha, he deserves it. Who asked him to steal the Netherworld Sacred Fire? Who asked him to control the Netherworld Sacred Fire? Now he's suffering. Fu Yushu grasped Luo Yunxiao's hand tightly. Her well-manicured nails almost pierced into his flesh, but he didn't notice it at all. Her voice was full of pleading and sobbing. There was no problem before, but a few days ago, it suddenly broke out. Yunxiao, is your only brother. You must help him. Yin Yuani, who was lying on the bed, heard the noise and slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Luo Yunxiao, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes burst out with intense jealousy. Luo Yunxiao, is it you? Did you do something to the Netherworld Sacred Fire and cause me to become like this? Fu Yushu hurriedly said, how can you say that? Yunxiao is your brother. How could he hurt you? Mother, don't you know that he has always hated me? Yin Yuani gritted his teeth. He hates that I am favored by you and father, and that I will become the lord of the Nether Realm in the future. He has been waiting for me to die. Otherwise, it wouldn't have nearly killed me back then. Ah, it hurts. Yin Yuani was so agitated that the wound on his back was pulled open, and he let out a scream. Fu Yushu's heart ached so much that tears streamed down her cheeks. Right at this moment, the door was pushed open, and Yin Wuji quickly walked in with two people in tow. On the left was an old man with a long beard and long eyebrows. His hair was slightly white. This person was called Jiang Chunwei, and he was the chief doctor of the Nether Domain. As for the person on the right, he was tall and thin like a bamboo pole. His appearance could be considered handsome, but he always gave off a feminine feeling. He was wearing a colorful robe with strange totems on it. As he walked, the colorful runes on his robe also trembled. If one looked closely, they would feel dizzy. This was the first time Luo Yunxiao had seen this man in the Nether realm. He couldn't help but take a few more glances. Coincidentally, the man also looked over. The corners of his mouth slowly curled up, revealing a deep and treacherous smile. "Father." Seeing Yin Wuji come in, Yin Yuanyi immediately shouted, "Get this demonic creature out. I don't want to see him. If he hadn't harmed me, how could I have fallen to this state?" Yin Wuji looked coldly at Luo Yunxiao. Chapter 2859. In this gaze, there was not the slightest bit of fatherly love for his son, only bone-piercing disgust and hatred. But when he turned to Yin Yuanyi, his expression instantly softened. Don't be naughty. Father summoned him back in order to completely heal your injuries. Let Dr. Jiang take a look at your illness first. Hearing this, Jiang Chunwei saluted Yin Wuji and Fu Yushu before walking to Yin Yuanyi's side to examine him. As time passed, Jiang Chunwei's brows furrowed more and more tightly. Fu Yushu could not hold it in any longer and asked anxiously, "Dr. Jiang, how is he?" Jiang Chunwei didn't answer Fu Yushu. Instead, he turned to Luo Yunxiao and asked, "Young Master Xiao, can you let this old man take a look at your back?" Luo Yunxiao frowned slightly. However, before he could answer, Yin Wuji had already swiftly attacked. A sword chi shot towards Luo Yunxiao's back. His frail clothes were instantly torn apart by the sword chi, revealing a large patch of white skin and a perfectly chiseled back. When the female cultivators serving Yin Yuanyi in the hall saw this, they all blushed and turned their heads away. However, he couldn't help but sneak a peek. Although the first prince was not favored by the domain master and did not even have the right to be addressed as prince or young master, the first prince was not the domain master's favorite. But compared to the second prince, that fairy-like appearance and demeanor were like comparing the bright moon to a firefly. They couldn't be compared at all. However, apart from the maids, everyone else's attention was attracted by the totem on Luo Yunxiao's back. It was a mass of blood-red patterns. They were like spider lilies blooming on the banks of the river of forgetfulness, or like blazing flames. The sword chi that Yin Wuji released just now had scratched the skin on his back. A few beads of blood slid down her jade-white back, sliding across the blood-red totem, drawing out a beautiful and enchanting line. Fu Yushu covered her mouth and shouted in a trembling voice, "How could this be? How was this possible? Hadn't the netherworld sacred fire been transferred to Ear? Why did I return to?" Yin Yuanyi suddenly propped himself up from the bed. His eyes were spitting fire as he stared at Luo Yunxiao's back and screamed, "No, this is impossible. The netherworld sacred flame is mine. Why did it return to Luo Yunxiao? I don't believe it. I don't believe it." Yin Yuanyi was so excited that he rolled off the bed and screamed in pain. How are you?" Yin Yuanyi grabbed Fu Yushu and Yin Wuji's hands and roared in pain, "Father, Mother, the netherworld holy flame is mine. It belongs to me. Why was it taken back by that monster, that bastard? It must be him, it must be Luo Yunxiao who plotted against me, just like that time. Father, kill him for me, help me take back the netherworld sacred flame." Yin Wuji injected his spiritual power into Yin Yuanyi's body, alleviating his pain. Then, he comforted him softly, "Don't worry, I promise that the netherworld sacred fire will be yours." After gently carrying Yin Yuanyi to the bed, Yin Wuji stood up and looked at Luo Yunxiao sharply. "What do you have to say for yourself?" Luo Yunxiao calmly took out another set of clothes to change into before looking at Yin Wuji. "I have nothing to say." Yin Wu was furious. Is your biological brother. Isn't it enough for you to harm him once? Do you want to harm him a second time? Luo Yunxiao's expression remained the same in the face of Yin Wuji's biased attitude. Qi Wen, who was in the spirit pet pouch, was furious. "What did you do to him?" Chapter 2860. They were the ones who forcibly took the netherworld sacred fire from you. What does that have to do with you? Now that the netherworld sacred fire is in trouble, it's all your fault. Why? You are both their sons. Why are you treated differently? Luo Yunxiao gently pressed her hand on the spiritual beast bag to prevent Qi Wen from rushing out. She couldn't help but curl her lips into a self-deprecating smile. Treated differently? He was already used to it. Luo Yunqiao said, I didn't take the netherworld sacred fire, nor did I make it merge with Yin Yuanyi. How would I know why it's back to me? Yin Wuji sneered. That better be the case. If I find out that you deliberately harmed your brother, don't blame me for being rude. Dr. Jiang. He turned to Jiang Chunwei. How can Er's illness be cured? Jiang Chunwei stole a glance at Luo Yunqiao. He hesitated for a moment before saying softly, the only way is to transfer the sacred fire again. Are you kidding me? Qi-Wen was furious. Do they know the pain of having your flesh, spirit, and spirit stripped from your body bit by bit? Do they know how you walked through hell back then, master? They actually wanted to take the sacred fire from you again. Bastards. 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 Master, let me out. I'm going to bite them to death. I'm going to send this bunch of trash to hell. Luo Yunqiao's expression was calm. There was a faint mocking smile on her lips as if she had already guessed this ending. Yin Wuji said resolutely and decisively, then let's move again. How could this be? Fu Yushu's tears streamed down her cheeks. She said in a trembling voice, if I transfer it again, won't Xiao suffer another heart-wrenching pain? Yin Wuji said, do you want to see Er die? Xiao mother, poor Xiao Fu Yushu grabbed Luo Yunqiao's hand and cried, I don't want you to suffer, but your brother is in danger. Hundreds of years ago, you almost killed him once. Just take it as you owe him for all this. Xiao, you don't want to see your brother die, do you? Yin Wuji laughed coldly. Hundreds of years ago, he didn't just want to kill Er. He clearly wanted to kill both of us as well. At that time, this nether domain, this world, will all be his. Luo Yunqiao, I can tell you something. Today, you will have to move the netherworld's sacred flame, even if you don't want to. Luo Yunqiao closed her eyes and said nothing. A hesitant look appeared on Jiang Chun's face, and she couldn't help but say, but even if we transfer it again, I'm afraid it won't be able to cure the root of the problem. Perhaps the netherworld's sacred flame had already recognized young Master Xiao as its master in the river of forgetfulness. That was why it suffered a backlash when it was not a host. I'm afraid. He didn't finish his sentence, but his meaning was very clear. Yin Yuanyi's face turned pale at the thought that he would have to endure such pain again. He grabbed Yin Wuji and Fu Yushu's clothes and screamed, Father, Mother, save me. The netherworld's sacred flame is mine, it cannot be transferred. I will never bear such humiliation and pain again. Yin Wuji fiercely flicked his sleeves and turned to look at the feminine man in a colorful robe. Priest Lu Yun, didn't you say that as long as Er obtained the sacred flame, our nether domain would be in control of the world? How did it become like this? Chapter 2861. The long-robed man smiled and said, Don't worry, Region Lord. The fate of the heavenly Tao, Ku and Qian, Ken Li, and Li all change with time and the flow of the situation. The last time I divined for Region Lord was decades ago. It's possible that there's been a change now. I'll do another divination for Region Lord to see who or what has caused His Highness Yuanyi's glorious fate to deviate. Yin Yuanyi said anxiously, You, quickly. Quickly. The long-robed man nodded and turned to Luo Yunqiao. The smile on his face became more and more treacherous. I am Mu Lu Yun. Greetings, young Master Xiao. I heard that in ancient times, there was an immortal man who accumulated stones like jade and arranged pine trees like jade. His beauty was unparalleled in the world. I thought it was too exaggerated, but after seeing young Master Xiao in person, I realized that there really was such a peerless man in the world. No wonder even the demon Lord Jun Shurtian looked at you in a different light. It's a pity. Mu Luyun didn't finish his words. He just shook his head slightly, seeming regretful and admiring. Yin Yuanyi gritted his teeth, and his eyes were full of jealousy and hatred. Luo Yunqiao frowned. Looking at this strange priest, she felt a strong sense of alarm and unease. After saying this, Mu Luyun took out a strange compass and sat down cross-legged. As he infused it with immortal power, the compass lit up with rays of light. A total of 49 rays of light interweaved in midair to form numerous complicated talisman markings. Mu Luyun's eyes stared fixedly at the seal inscriptions. He did not even blink as if he was afraid that he would miss out on some important information. 2 whole hours passed. Yin Yuanyi, lying on the couch, couldn't bear the pain from his back. He let out a low moan and muttered, Is it done? Quickly take the nether sacred fire for me, hurry. Ugh. At this time, Mu Luyun slowly opened his eyes. His left hand waved in the air, and the runes formed by the compass and the 49 rays of light disappeared. Yin Wuji hurriedly asked, Priest Lu Yun, what's the result of the divination? At this moment, he was not only concerned about his son's safety, but the future of the nether region. Mu Luyun stared blankly at Luo Yunxiao and then slowly withdrew his gaze at Yin Wuji's urging. After a long while, he seemed to regain his senses and muttered, "How could this be? So it was like this? How could the fate of the heavenly Tao change so suddenly?" Mu Luyun. Yin Wuji was enraged. He waved his hand fiercely, and a gust of wind pushed Mu Luyun back a few steps. "Domain Lord, please calm down." He hurriedly bowed, raised his head, and said word by word, "The devil returns to the cleansing region, a pearl in the vast sea, the phoenix soars in the 9 heavens, the 3 realms return to its heart. When the divine master ascends, where will he look at the 9 prefectures?" Yin Wuji was startled. "What do you mean? Region Lord, if my divination skills have not deteriorated, and if the results of the divination are correct, the situation in the world has changed completely." Mu Luyun's voice slightly trembles. It's hard to tell if he's excited or nervous. In the future, the power of the 3 realms will be divided, the fate of the rise and fall will no longer be you and the young master, nor will it be the polar domain's Di Mingju. Instead, it's that princess of the demon clan that hasn't been found yet. What? Luo Yunxiao suddenly raised her head, her gaze firmly fixed on Mu Luyun. Yin Yuanyi said loudly, "Mu Luyun, what do you mean by this?" Chapter 2862. Genius? 1 second, remember Yin Yuanyi shouts. "Mu Luyun, what do you mean by that? The demon returns to the pure domain, a pearl lost in the vast sea, the phoenix soars in the 9th heaven, the heart of the 3 realms, aren't these words referring to the demon race's lost princess?" Mu Luyun chuckles. "Moreover, the bright future should belong to His Highness Yuanyi, but suddenly, the sacred fire of the netherworld has been transferred to Xiao Gongzi. Have you ever thought about the reason for this?" Yin Yuanyi's pupils suddenly contract, almost gnashing his teeth as he roars, "Because of the engagement. Because of his engagement with the demon race's princess. Father, mother, hurry. Let Luo Yunxiao break off the engagement, and let me marry the demon race's princess. In this way, I can become the real netherworld Saint Emperor. Xiuxian continent, polar domain. The sun is scorching, the blue sky is as if it has been washed. In front of the imperial palace, Han Yi and the men of the Yanyu tribe are discussing something, occasionally bursting into laughter. On the other side, Ying Mei and the members of the Xian tribe have a completely different style from them. Most of them are silent, some are wiping the weapons in their hands, some are looking at the distant scenery. But when the people of the Yanyu tribe are talking and laughing, they will also tilt their ears to listen, occasionally revealing a faint smile on their faces. Just like Ying Mei, whose hand is touched by Han Yi from time to time, brushing his presence. The 2 sides are clearly divided, yet indescribably harmonious. Just then, 2 figures come flying from the horizon, landing in front of the imperial palace in just a moment. The people of the Yanyu tribe and the Xian tribe quickly bow and kneel. "Greetings to Jun Shang, greetings to Elder Chang." Di Mingju waves his hand, letting them get up. Han Yi stands up and says with a smile, "Jun Shang, did you go to visit the little master? How is the little master's progress now?" Elder Chang strokes his beard, his face full of gratification. "The little Gongzi has passed the 6th trial, and is now attacking the 7th. TSK, even though I have seen so many geniuses in the polar domain, none of them can be compared with the little Gongzi's talent." No wonder Jun Shang resolutely decided to make the little Gongzi the little master of the polar domain. As for the fact that the young master was not of Jun Shang's bloodline, Elder Chang did not care much about this matter. He had never married in his life, but he treated Jun Shang as his own son, little Jiu as his own younger brother, and the polar domain as his own home. He had never felt lonely. Similarly, as long as Jun Shang is happy, and as long as it doesn't harm the polar domain, what does it matter what kind of woman he marries, or who he chooses as the successor of the polar domain? Hearing Elder Chang's praise, Han Yi laughs mischievously, looking as if he's honored. "That's right, don't you know whose son the little master is?" Ying Mei bumps into Han Yi, but Han Yi doesn't feel anything at all. He's still completely oblivious to his own boasting. "Elder Chang, you haven't seen Miss Jun's abnormal advancement speed. Her child, even if his biological father's bloodline is a bit weaker, it still can't completely cover up the little master's astonishing talent." "Ah! Ying Mei, why are you stepping on me?" Elder Chang sneaks a glance at Di Mingju, lighting a candle for Han Yi in his heart. Cough, cough, Han Yi, what were you guys laughing at just now? Han Yi uses an aggrieved and resentful gaze to look at Ying Mei for a long time, only then does he turn his head and say, reporting to Elder Chang, "We were talking about Yin Yuanyi, the young master of the netherworld domain who just received the sacred flame of the netherworld? What happened to him? Pfft, what sacred flame of the netherworld? I think it's better to call it the joke of the netherworld. 10_10033/ Chapter 2863. Genius? 1 second. Remember, Han Yi rejoiced in other people's misfortune. It said that some time ago, there was also a crack in the enchantment of the netherworld domain, and the poltergeist ghosts invaded. Moreover, there were quite a few of them. The netherworld domain lost a lot of elite soldiers and good generals, but they weren't able to completely eliminate the poltergeist ghosts. Therefore, he invited Enyuani over, hoping to burn the poltergeist ghosts with the netherworld's sacred fire. The holy netherworld fire was a powerful holy fire produced by the dark holy flame in the river of forgetfulness with the body that contained the spirit of the netherworld. Only those who had inherited the most powerful inheritance of the holy netherworld emperor could master this power. The poltergeist ghosts were difficult to slaughter, but if he used the netherworld's sacred flame, it would be a piece of cake to annihilate them. Unexpectedly, Enyuani not only failed to kill all the poltergeist ghosts in one fell swoop, but the netherworld holy fire he released actually backfired on him. Puff! The people of our Falling Moon tribe didn't even need to sneak over to investigate, and they could already hear him screaming like a pig being slaughtered. At this point, the people of the Falling Moon tribe couldn't help but laugh. Although this matter happened in the nether region, the commotion it caused was too great. Currently, the entire cultivation world is in an uproar. Ha ha ha, now I want to see where the nether realm and Wuji will put their old faces. Elder Chang couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. The nether realm used to dominate the entire Xiuxian continent, but now it's getting more and more out of hand. When Wuji suffers from the Deva's 5 decrepit phenomena, if Enyuani, that idiot, succeeds to the throne, I'm afraid that will be the day when the nether world completely declines. On the other hand, their polar domain's ruler was in the prime of his life. He was only 1,000 years old, yet he had already become the one and only immortal emperor in the cultivation world. Little Master is so talented and smart, her future is limitless. TSK, they can't be compared. They couldn't be compared. Di Mingju's eyes flash. He thought of Luo Yunxiao, who possessed the power of the underworld. The only son that Wuji had announced to the public was Enyuani. However, the power of the Nether Holy Flame could only be possessed by the direct descendants of the Nether Holy Emperor. Who was Luo Yunxiao? Who was the young lord of the Nether Realm who had a marriage alliance with the demon race? A faint thought flits through Di Mingju's mind. That day, Mayan said that she saw the master of the Tianguang ruins in the dreamy cloud swampland, and triggered the 3 lives united heart seal. On the surface, the heavenly light ruins belonged to the nether domain. But in reality, there were complicated relationships involved. Just as Di Mingju is about to ponder, suddenly, boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. Everyone present stood up abruptly, leaped into the air, and looked in the direction of the voice. In the southern sky, a flame soared into the sky, dyeing half the sky red. The ground trembled like a mournful wail. The immortal qi and spiritual qi that permeated the cultivation continent tumbled violently as if they were swept by a hurricane. What is this? Han Ye's voice trembles a bit. Di Mingju slowly says, Netherworld Sacred Fire, 3rd rank Netherworld Sacred Fire. Tier 3? You mean that idiot Enyuani has advanced? Han Yi is puzzled. But the 3rd stage sounds pretty low, doesn't it? Pretty low. Elder Chang looks at Han Yi like he's looking at an idiot. Do you know what rank the Netherworld Holy Emperor's Netherworld Sacred Fire was when he ruled the 3 realms 10,000 years ago? What rank? Tier 5. Elder Chang lowly replies, do you know what kind of heaven-defying strength a Tier 5 Netherworld Sacred Fire is equivalent to? That's the peak of the Immortal Emperor, just 1 step away from the Hongmeng Great Path. 10_10033/ Chapter 2864. Genius? 1 second. Remember, the 4th rank Netherworld Sacred Flame is equivalent to an Immortal Emperor, the same rank as Jun Shang. In the current Xiuxian continent, there is no such thing. Do you still think that the 3rd rank Netherworld Sacred Flame is very low? Han Yi gapes, his eyes filled with horror. He doesn't come back to his senses for a long time. Even Ing Mei shows a look of surprise. That Enyuani really has this kind of strength? Di Mingju sneers. Not necessarily. Han Yi, Jun Shang, what do you mean? Di Mingju faintly glances at him, about to answer. Suddenly, the void spirit ring on his hand faintly flashes. Di Mingju's eyes narrow, and the air around him becomes a bit colder. Jun Shang, what's wrong? Ing Mei asks with concern, is something the matter with Miss Jun? She sees the faintly flashing void spirit ring on Di Mingju's hand. There's not much worry on Di Mingju's face, but his voice is a bit chilly. Mayan used the talisman that I left for her. This means that a crossing tribulation stage cultivator wants to make a move against Mayan. Moreover, the talisman didn't lose a part of its energy, but directly dissipated. That means that the strength of the opponent that Mayan encountered is at least at the peak of crossing tribulation stage. Di Mingju says coldly, I'm going to the Xiozhan continent. Elder Chang, Han Yi, and the others have no objections, and promptly bow. Jun Shang, rest assured, we will certainly look after the affairs of the polar domain, and wait for your return. Although there's someone in the Netherworld realm who has successfully cultivated the third-rank Netherworld Sacred Flame, it's precisely because they just advanced that the Sacred Flame is unstable. For the time being, they wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Di Mingju nods, and is about to head towards the Qiankuan mirror side chamber. Suddenly, a ray of light comes from the horizon, as fast as lightning. Report. Jun Shang, it's not good. There are many cracks in the northern boundary. Di Mingju pauses, looking at the person in astonishment. Speak clearly. Before the messenger could get close, people from the east, south, and west rushed over like lightning. Jun Shang, the eastern boundary is broken. Jun Shang, there are cracks in the southern boundary. My lord. An immortal dressed in the ghost murder tribe's clothing falls to his knees in front of Di Mingju with a thud, his voice trembling. Jun Shang, it's not good. A spatial crack has appeared at the entrance to the small world where the little master is. Starved ghosts are pouring out, blocking the entrance to the small world. Young master is in danger. Di Mingju's pupils suddenly contract. Almost at the same time, the nameless barrier that surrounded the entire Xiozhan continent seemed to have been torn apart by something, and cracks of various sizes appeared on it. Some of the cracks were empty, with only the primal chaos baleful chi that could be repaired in time. Behind some cracks were countless ferocious poltergeist ghosts that fought to charge out. The cultivation continent was in danger. Cultivation continent, snow spirit forest. Mu Yan wakes up from her deep sleep, only feeling that her hands and feet are sore and weak. Junior sister, you're awake. Mayan stretches her waist and slowly absorbs the spiritual power of heaven and earth. Spiritual power runs in her dry dantian, which makes her feel much more comfortable. Junior sister, what do you think? Mu Yan slowly exhales, and says with a smile, the taste of exhausting spiritual power is really too unpleasant. The moment the talisman was completely activated, Mu Yan really felt as if the spiritual power in her dantian was being swept up by a whirlpool, whistling out. That kind of feeling was like her entire body was being hollowed out in an instant. She doesn't want to experience it a second time. Next time, she must have Di Mingju improve the talisman. Sixth sister? 10_10033/ Chapter 2865. Genius? 1 second. Remember hearing the familiar voice, Mayan turned around and saw Luo Yu's pale face right in front of her. Little 7, you're awake. Luo Yu nodded, her eyes slightly red. Stop. Mayan raises her hand to interrupt him. There's nothing wrong with me, it's just that my spiritual power has been exhausted, that's all. Wait for me to absorb a little spiritual power of heaven and earth, and I can use the echo breath to recover in less than half an hour. Don't say anything else, it's all your fault. Luo Yu was embarrassed. The other members of the Xiaoyao sect laughed out loud. All right. Yun Ruhan interrupted them, teasing Luo Yu. The Yun family and Cleansing Joy Pavilion will definitely not let this matter rest. Once junior sister recovers her spiritual energy, we'll leave the northern continent. The 6 of them nodded simultaneously. Half an hour later, Mu Yan regains her full strength. The 7 of them quickly arrived at the edge of the snow demon forest. Mu Yan takes out the Tian Mo Qin and plucks the strings, activating the Yi Star Curtain. This time, Mu Yan rips open the myriad wavy great arrays barrier with familiarity, and doesn't take much time. A door of light quickly appeared in the empty void. Qin Jiu, Chu Moli, Ling Yuma, Ling Yuxing, Mu Yan, and Luo Yu walked out one after another. Luo Yu stretched. We're finally out of this damn place. Suddenly, he turned around and realized something was wrong. Eldest senior brother? Where's eldest senior brother? The door of light that Mu Yan has torn out hasn't dissipated yet, but it's getting smaller bit by bit. The 6 of them stood outside the barrier. But Yun Ruhan stayed in the barrier, looking at them with a smile. Eldest senior brother. Luo Yu pounced over, wanting to pull him out. What are you doing there? Come out. Yun Ruhan's gaze was fixed on Luo Yu, her eyes filled with gentleness, reluctance, and determination. Little 7, in the future, you have to listen to senior sister and senior brother. What the hell is this? Ling Yuma said anxiously, eldest senior brother, come out quickly. The passage is about to close. Yun Ruhan shook her head. I can't get out. What do you mean? Mayan said anxiously, is eldest brother worried about the Gil God punishing wizard, on Yun Jifeng? Don't worry, I can solve it. Yun Ruhan shook her head again. Little junior sister, I'll leave little 7 to you in the future. Promise me, no matter what, don't let anyone hurt him, and don't let anyone take him away. Luo, you didn't care about anything else and dashed towards the light door. Eldest senior brother, if you don't leave, I won't leave either. That's right, why are you leaving? We, the Xiaoyao 7, will advance and retreat together. If we leave together. If we stay together. Eldest senior brother, you still have things to do here. We'll risk our lives to accompany you. However, just as they rushed to the light door, they were met with a wave of sword chi. Luo Yu staggered a step back and only managed to steady herself with Ling Yusheng's support. Because of this delay, the door of light had completely closed, and Yun Ruhan's figure had disappeared. Yun Ruhan turned around with her sword in hand and gazed into the distant horizon. There, a vast army of cultivators was surging toward them like a dense black cloud, accompanied by the ethereal performance of snow and ice solitude. Wherever the sound of the zither went, the great array of 10,000 torches flashed. Yun Ruhan looked down at the livor mortis that had already spread to the back of her hand. She smiled and soared into the sky. Outside the barrier. Sixth senior sister, how is it? The barrier still can't be opened? Mayan's face was cold as she looked at the great array of 10,000 torches flickering with lines that were 10,000 times more complicated than before. She closed her eyes and suppressed the burning anxiety in her heart. When she opened them again, there was only a disdainful sneer left on her face. You want to block me with a mere great array of 10,000 torches? Since I can't break it, then I'll thoroughly destroy you. 10_10033/ Chapter 2866. Yun Ruhan, you evil demon. Give me back my life. Xian Menglan's face was full of hatred as she stabbed her sword at Yun Ruhan. Yun Ruhan dodged and raised her sword to block. Xian Menglan's cultivation was at the 5th level of astral projection. She didn't care about a nascent soul cultivator like Yun Ruhan at all. However, when the two swords collided, Xian Menglan felt as if she had punched an iron plate. Her whole body flew back dozens of meters because of the reaction force. Yun Zhaoxing caught Xian Menglan and was about to help, but Xian Yuan stopped him. Xian Yuan asked, Yun Ruhan, where are Lan Luoyu and Jun Mayan? Yun Ruhan replied, they've already left the northern continent. That's impossible. Ye Yun exclaimed and looked at Yuan Lan beside her. The barrier was sealed. How could they escape from the northern continent? Yun Ruhan curled her lips and sneered, there's no place in this world that the Xiaoyao sect can't escape from. Little junior sister managed to break the 10,000-year prison in Fusang City. What was the great array of 10,000 tortures in the northern continent? Xian Yuan's face darkened. Do you think that they can sleep peacefully after escaping from the great array of 10,000 tortures? You stole my Cleansing Lu Pavilion's ultimate technique, snatched my Cleansing Lu Pavilion's divine artifact, ruined my Cleansing Lu Pavilion's reputation, and now even killed my only grandson. I want everyone in the Xiaoyao sect to pay a painful price for this. Holy Maiden, please extract this evil demon soul from Jifeng's body. I want to let this Yun Ruhan have a taste of her soul being destroyed. Yuan Lan frowned, and her eyes flashed with reluctance. Snow Solitude had a very special ability, which was that it could communicate with a person's soul. When used for treatment, it could calm the soul, expand the divine sense, and expel the inner demons. When it was used to attack, it could pull a person's soul out of their body. This move was called soul-sucking heavenly note song. The torture of the soul and the body being separated was 100 times more painful than being skinned. Yuan Lan would not use the soul-sucking heavenly note song unless it was to deal with the most vicious people. The Xiaoyao 7 had only become famous in the cultivation continent in the past 2 years. After becoming hostile with Mu Yen, Jian Lan had also carefully investigated their background. He discovered that although the 7 of them behaved recklessly, they had never committed any atrocities. The massacre of Fusang City sounded shocking, but after knowing what Fusang City had done, even Yu Lan wanted to send them to the 18th level of hell. Yun Ruhan, the one-sword mountain and sea, was considered the kindest and most righteous among the 7 carefree warriors. Was he really going to use the soul-stealing heaven sound song on him? Holy Maiden, this wretched devil. It's this wretched devil that possessed my son's body. You must make him suffer retribution. Xian Menglan's cries woke Hong Lan up abruptly. That's right, Yun Ruhan possessed Yun Jifeng's body. This kind of evil and crooked path should be punished by everyone. How could he be soft-hearted? Hong Lan calmed herself down and waved her hand to summon the Yi Snow Solitude. Yun Ruhan, the Yi soul-sucking heavenly note song, is not something that ordinary people can endure. I advise you to kill yourself now. Holy Maiden, Xian Yuan said anxiously, how can we let him die so easily? We still want to capture his 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls to force the Xiaoyao school to submit to us. Your mother wanted to take back the cry of the 9th heaven crane even before she died. Don't you want it? Hearing Xian Yuan's words, Yun Ruhan, who had been calm before, turned around and rushed into the depths of the forest. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.